here on opening night. The Royals fans are pumped up again, just as they were last year. Such a great run for them through the regular season and the postseason. Jess, they were just not to be denied.
Dan, every team on opening day, too, they're going to show up and they want to win the World Series. But for the Kansas City Royals, they want to do something that a team hasn't done in 16 years, and that is repeat. They have the nucleus of this team together, and who they are is still intact. And what is this team? This is a team that doesn't strike out. They understand the defense they're playing. They study, they research, they know how they practice on the base paths. They understand the situation. All of this was put together in one play in the World Series last year. Game 5, Eric Hosmer. Right here, Salvador Perez does not strike out. He puts the ball in play. It might have been weakly, but it's to David Wright. Watch Eric Hosmer at third base. He knows his defense. He's not the fastest guy, but he takes a risk because he knows where he's at on the base pass. David Wright makes a throw to Lucas Duda, and because they know their defense, they had a game plan to run and make this Mets team throw. This throw gets thrown away because of how they play the game, how they practice all year. This play right here epitomizes exactly who the Kansas Royals are.
And just a few minutes before that play was when Matt Harvey earned the right or talked his way to come back out for the ninth inning. He had been brilliant through 8, could not get an out, faced 2 batters in the ninth. But now, 5 months later, Terry Collins deciding who his ace, who he wants his opening night starter to be, and once again, it's the dark night on the mound for the Mets.
Yeah, and remember, guys, last year at this time, he was coming back from Tommy John surgery, and the question was, how was he going to be? Was he going to be the dominant young pitcher he showed early in his career? He passed with flying colors. He absolutely was. But in the second half of the season, the innings limit came up, and it started to be a question. He would eventually put that aside and be a big reason why they got to the World Series. But that innings limit, if he's going to go and take the next step as an ace pitcher, he needs to climb that up over the 200-inning mark this year.
And about a week ago, every single Met fan held his or her breath because Matt Harvey had what appeared to be a bit of a medical scare. For more on that, let's go down to Buster Olney.
Yeah, Dan, a week ago, Matt Harvey turned 27, and the next day he was found to have a blood clot in his bladder. And once he passed that, doctors told the Mets that he would be okay to start on opening day, although Mets manager Terry Collins did express some unknown about how he's going to react to the medication he's been taking when he starts tonight. Collins has been concerned about a World Series hangover, which is why he held a team meeting here on Saturday and told his players, whether it's physical or mental, you got to get past it because everything starts now. Dan, back to you.
All right, Buster, thank you. On the mound for the Royals tonight, the guy who was on the mound opposing Matt Harvey in Game 5 of the World Series 5 months ago, Edinson Volquez draws the opening night honor for the Kansas City Royals. Quite a scene already in this ballpark tonight, and the game hasn't even begun because the World Series trophy was officially presented to the Royals here in Kansas City tonight. They celebrated like crazy at the end of last season. They're trying to start a new run tonight. lead, and the game is tied. Hosmer delivers a sacrifice fly to right.
Duda's bad throw sails past Garneau, and Hosmer scores.
Strike 3 called, and the Kansas City Royals have won the World Series. They beat the New York Mets in 5 games, and now here are these two teams meeting one another to start the 2016 season. Again, just a coincidence. The schedule for this year was set before the playoffs last year, but here they are, the Mets and the Royals again. The Mets were honored with a brief video by the Royals before the game, but then it got down to celebration time for Kansas City, and they did a good job of it before the game. Let's check out the starting lineup now for the New York Mets, and a guy, Jess, the Mets are really hoping can stay healthy this year in David Wright.
He's their captain. I mean, he's setting a Mets record 12th opening day start. He's the heart and soul of this team. They're going to need him. He's back right up behind him with Yoenis Cespedes. He was a savior last year. I mean, he came in the second half, 17 home runs, 44 RBIs in 57 games.
And on the mound tonight for the Royals, the guys we mentioned who started Game 5 of the World Series last year. Edinson Volquez went 13-9 with a .355 ERA. His best game in the playoffs came in Game 1 of the ALCS against Toronto. He pitched well in both games of the World Series. Remember, the Royals, they just kept coming back time and time again. They won 3 games in the World Series in which they trailed in the 8th inning or later. Edinson Volquez, who was released by San Diego in 2013, revived his career with Pittsburgh in 2014, and now in his second year as a member of the Royals. 2 games already in the books today around Major League Baseball. Pittsburgh defeating St. Louis 4-1. Toronto over Tampa Bay 5-3. And now the nightcap here on day 1, the Mets and the Royals. And weather-wise, just a beautiful night to get things started here in the Midwest. Curtis Granderson steps in for the Mets. Volquez is ready to go. And we are underway here at Kauffman Stadium. That ball taken out of play. Volquez will get a fresh one. And right off the bat, you see 96 miles an hour on that first pitch fastball. And that's something Volquez did a lot in the playoffs. He was throwing the ball hard last October. Breaking ball in there, 0-2.
We're going to talk a lot tonight about Matt Harvey, but Edinson Volquez, from a stuff standpoint, does not take a back seat. We will routinely see mid-upper 90s with that sinking fastball, that curveball there, and an outstanding straight change that he uses a lot to lefties.
Inside of the knees, ball 1 to Granderson.
And that's a pitch, that last one, the two-seamer that he throws. Front doors these lefties, and you see it 0-2, you're going to see it early in the count, but watch with these left-handed hitters. Him try to aim it right at the kneecap of a Curtis Granderson, have it, hopefully for him, curve back over the plate.
Granderson had a very solid 2015 year for the Mets as he takes a little bit inside of the belt.
That's that pitch right there again, Jess. He did a better job of bringing it back. The pitch before, I think he overthrew a little bit, yanked it kind of in off the plate.
After Granderson, Wright, and then Cespedes. The infielders playing Granderson slightly to pull. 2-2, and a late and somewhat defensive swing on that breaking ball as he fouls it off.
This is what makes Granderson such a great leadoff hitter, especially the last year, and how he's cultivated 2 strikes there. Just, you mentioned it, defensive swing. He let that ball travel and just fought it off, wasted it. Give me another one.
Volquez shaking off Perez a couple of times. 2-2 on the way, and a swing and a drive to center field. Kane with room. Opening night baseball on ESPN is presented by Scott's Turf Builder Weed and Feed. Strengthens grass and strangles weeds. And in part by Apartments.com. Change your apartment, change the world. And Oberto Beef Jerky. You get out what you put in. One down here in the top of the first, and now here is David Wright. As all Met fans know, and most baseball fans know, Missed so much time last year, only appeared, as you can see, in 38 games due to spinal stenosis, a narrowing of the spinal column. Has to do a ton of extra work as he sends that ball down the line and out of play. A ton of extra work before the game just to be able to play. Terry Collins said before the game it's more stiffness than pain, but there appears to be a lot of unknown guys about just how many games David Wright might be able to play in this year because of this condition.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of players that have come back from it, and I think that's why it's new. Think about Don Mattingly, part of why his career ended. Lenny Dykstra.
Chased the ball low, 0-2.
Well, and the challenge is understanding how to balance his workload because of that unknown. It's a lot less swings each and every day. It's way less weight training, certainly during the season. It's less ground balls at third base. And how does that play from a sharpness standpoint as the season unfolds? Is that Volquez with the that's the spring training, I think, edition of the Royals hat.
He's got the wrong hat on. That's a fine.
That'll cost
that's a big fine.
We
right
just
there.
called him out
Yeah.
too.
And you'll have it on in the
gone
second.
unnoticed.
2-2. Well, Ned's got the right hat on. See the World Series champions, the gold KC. Well, they were within 90 feet potentially of winning a World Series championship in 2014, tying runs stranded at third in Game 7 against the Giants. They took it the distance last year, beating the Mets in 5. Ground ball down to third. Moustakas 2 down. And now Yoenis Cespedes. A lot of intrigue around his free agency in the offseason. What would he do? And in the end, didn't get as long of a deal as he wanted, so he re-signed with the Mets. 3 years, $75 million. A little bit front-loaded, $27.5 million this year, and maybe most importantly, he's got an out clause after this season. So he gets paid. The Mets get him back, and they'll see if they're still going to be together next year. But of course, for about 6 or 7 weeks, he just took the National League by storm after being acquired by the Mets last year. First 41 games, 17 homers. He did not homer in the last 16 regular season games and had kind of an uneven playoff offensively. But boy, for those first 41 games, there was even talk, guys, and I don't think it ever got too serious, but MVP. Could he be the National League MVP having only played 2 months in the league? Didn't come to fruition, didn't even get close.
Didn't Rick Sutcliffe do that with the?
But he was there for 4 months. Right. Now, Cespedes did win a Gold Glove last year in the American League. Broken back, ground ball towards short. Escobar on to first, and the inning is over. Mets go 3 up and 3 down. Matt Harvey headed to the mound when we come back.
is going to be dropped, and Escobar's rounding third on the first pitch. Escobar hits one for an inside the park home run.
Every time you go to a baseball game, you get a chance of seeing something you've never seen before. On the first pitch of the World Series, thrown by Harvey, hit by Escobar, booted by Cespedes, an inside the park home run for Alcides Escobar, who had a great postseason last year. Let's check out the starting lineup now for the Royals, and a lot of familiar names. 8 of the 9 were with Kansas City last year, including Aaron Lorenzo Cain, who really had a tremendous season.
Guys, he's become a bona fide superstar. What epitomizes what this Royals team is. Great all-around players on both sides of the ball. And Alex Gordon, perhaps one of the great gifts of the offseason. I think early on in the offseason, didn't feel like he would be back. They were able to re-sign him. All 1,140 career hits now in this great Royals franchise.
Matt Harvey on the mound for the Mets. First pitch swinging, no surprise. Escobar ground ball to third. 1 pitch, 1 out. Well, Harvey, as Aaron mentioned, coming back off the Tommy John surgery that cost him the 2014 season. Had a very good year last year. Remember the whole discussion and flap about the innings at the end of the year, where his agent Scott Boras wanted him kept under a certain number. And Harvey missed a start. They rested him for a while. Then he pitched more in September, and then he pitched a lot in October. Wound up throwing 216 innings between the regular season and the postseason. Aaron, you said off the top of the show the next step for him is 200 plus during the regular season and being that undisputed ace.
Yeah, and that's what we know. The Clayton Kershaws, the Madison Bumgarners of the world, the outstanding consistent starters in the National League, they're routinely up in that 220, 230. And that's the next step, not only for Matt Harvey, but for this great, really, quartet of power pitchers for the New York Mets.
Mike Moustakas, the batter for Kansas City, had a very good year last year, used the whole field a lot more, drove in runs, found base hits the other way. You can see the Mets still play him to pull, not a full shift, but they do play him to pull. But Moustakas went the other way a lot more. Every now and again would even drop a bunt down. Hit 22 homers, drove in 82 runs. And he shoots the ball the other way, hits it well, and Cespedes drops it. Man, oh man.
And this ball is hit right to Cespedes, but watch how he goes after it. He kind of just takes his eye off it, and this is what, I'm an outfielder, it drives me crazy when you see just that slow motion, go to the ball, not even get another hand in there. And yes, this is what happens, and a lot of times it's just get to the ball, it's hit over your head, get there and catch it. And right there, just an example of what we saw in the World Series last year carrying over to this season.
So a runner at first, 1 out, no score, and the batter Lorenzo Cain. Cain last year hit .307, 16 homers, stole 28, scored over 100 runs, and finished third in the American League in MVP voting. Josh Donaldson winning it, Mike Trout second, Lorenzo Cain third.
There's that slider that Matt Harvey is a true 4-pitch pitcher. Fastball, curve, slider, and change. But there's a chance, I think we might see this pitch, the slider, a little more often. He throws it hard, and especially against a guy like Lorenzo Cain. Now, while he's improved a lot on his ability to handle the slider, it's still a pitch that gives him a lot of problems. We'll see if he continues to go to it tonight against him.
High fastball, and that'll ricochet off the glove of d'Arnaud. Might have hit the umpire, Jerry Davis. Winds up at the backstop, and Moustakas winds up at second.
Well, I'm not sure if this is a cross-up or what, but this is just a high fastball that d'Arnaud just does not get the glove up in time. It didn't look as though he was crossed up. It looks as though he just whiffed it a bit off the toe of the glove, and a run into scoring position on a couple of mistakes now early on here for the Mets.
An error on Cespedes, a pass ball charged to d'Arnaud, and a runner in scoring position for Lorenzo Cain. A little bit high, ball 3. The base open and Eric Hosmer on deck for Kansas City. The Royals raising the banner tonight. The trophy presentation tonight. The ring ceremony will be Tuesday night, so the Mets will have to endure that as well. Ball 4 down and away. First and second with a 1 out.
And think about this inning now. That's 10 pitches for Matt Harvey. He was a line drive out from being 2 outs away with about 4 pitches in this game and perhaps cruising through a first inning. Now all of a sudden he's got to work hard and watch that pitch count now potentially ratchet up. Ultimately could play a role in him not getting deep into this ball game because of some shabby defense.
Here's Hosmer. 18 home runs, 93 RBIs a year ago, hit close to 300. And just down and away for ball 1.
You see our K zone there. That K lit up, meaning it caught the bottom of the strike zone. The strike zone that we've seen appear to get lower and lower over the last several years. According to our K zone there, it caught the bottom of the zone. Harvey doesn't get the call.
And Darno liked it too, signaling out to Harvey, who misses low, ball 2.
Unusual for Matt Harvey. I mean, one of his biggest assets, and I think why he gets the ball opening day, is the fact that he commands his pitches. He hits those spots consistently. Granted, it's day one, you know, kind of working out those kinks, but he usually commands that high top of the strike zone and then hits right at the bottom of the strike zone.
Right down the middle, 2-1. Live K-Zone all game is brought to you by Hankook Tire. 2 balls and a strike to count on Hosmer. The Royals threatening here in the bottom of the first. An error, a pass ball, and a walk, putting Matt Harvey in a jam. And that's going to sneak through the left side for a base hit. Moustakas will come in to score. Kane around to third on an RBI single by Hosmer.
And this pitch is not in a bad location, but watch what Eric Hosmer does. He basically just gets to contact. This is so his ground ball contact swing. He just slaps this ball in the right spot, finds a hole in that 5-6 hole, and this is the Royals. This is what they do. They take advantage of an error, a pass ball, really a ground ball out, located perfectly to get the RBI.
Well, and this highlights the difference between these two teams. That's a ball, maybe Alcides Escobar for the Royals goes over and is able to backhand with that outstanding range. Not a lot of range for this Mets infield.
And a balloon on the field causing the delay. If you're Matt Harvey, you got to wonder what you did wrong to somebody today. I mean, that's a double play ball if they're not playing him to pull.
Well, more importantly, that's out 3. You know, out 2 should have been caught. Out 3 was a grounder. He beat him.
And it doesn't get a whole lot easier. Here's Kendrys Morales, who was awarded a Silver Slugger Award before the game for his work last season. The most outstanding DH in the American League, 22 home runs and 106 RBIs. And as my friend Mr. Boone would like to say, he is a professional hitter. Would you put him in that category?
I would definitely put it.
I know you better than you think, my friend. And he's a professional hitter from both sides of the plate.
Well, and here's a good look at him getting that Silver Slugger Award. It was a great comeback season for Kendrys Morales, one of the real underrated off-season signings by Dayton Moore. The Kansas City Royals stabilized the middle of this lineup, but a smart hitter, and that smart, mature hitter is carried over.
Hard hit ball to second. This should be 2, and it is to end the inning. Well, the Royals get 1 and lead the Mets 1-0 at the end of 1 here in Kansas City. Volquez last year pitched some very big innings for the Kansas City Royals in the postseason. The overall numbers do not reflect how well he pitched in October, but he was throwing BBs through most of the month, and he kept his team in games and allowed the offense and the bullpen to really do its thing at the end of games as the Royals came back time and time again. 2 starts, 12 innings, 4 earned runs in the World Series against the Mets. And he's got the right hat on now.
They heard us.
Yeah.
There you go. Well done. 1-0 Kansas City, top of the second. And the batter is Lucas Duda, the Mets first baseman. And poor Lucas Duda. So he made the throw on the Hosmer mad dash home. It was Duda's errant throw. Hosmer slides in safely. And when the Mets were introduced one by one before the game, most of them got no reaction. Cespedes got booed, and Duda got cheered as if he were a member of the home team. He hooks the ball down the right field line, just foul.
Well, and it's getting worse for him right now. The first pitch was down and out of the zone, called a strike against him, and there he misses a double by a couple of feet down the right field line, finds himself 0-2 to Mr. Volquez.
He's talked so much, as you see the ball just barely foul from being a double booney, but he talked so much in the offseason about not letting that play define him and really setting the tone early in this season so that he at least can move on from what's really etched in a lot of memories for Mets fans.
So in the minds of some, this is just a continuation of the World Series, Game 6, if you will. Checks the swing, ball 1.
Well, K-Zone again says this was a strike at the bottom of the strike zone. You see that real good tight breaking ball from Edinson Volquez. Salvador Perez holds it there, but they don't get the call.
And just high, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And again, anytime a K lights up in the strike zone, it means it catches a portion of the strike zone. So those last 2 pitches actually strikes. They go against the Royals and for Lucas Duda, and now back in this count.
And there's one that K-Zone said was outside, but it's strike 3 called to finish him off.
Just tried to backdoor that breaking ball there, and Duda's saying it didn't get all the way back, which he's right. See that max effort delivery? Duda had it being up and away. K-Zone had it just off the plate away. As you can see, it's definitely off the plate there, but an inconsistent zone there for that hitter. Finally discards of Lucas Duda.
And here is the regular season debut as a Met for longtime Pirate Neil Walker, a Pittsburgh guy, Pittsburgh kid who had spent his entire major league career with the Pirates. Acquired in an off-season deal for Jonathan Neese. Daniel Murphy, former Met, moving on, and now Neil Walker comes into play second base. A switch hitter, 16 homers, 71 RBIs, a pretty consistent guy in terms of power over the years. Talked about how hard it was at the beginning. You know, you've played your whole career for one team. You get traded. Takes a little while to get used to it, but by all accounts he is right now in a new middle infield combination for the Mets with Asdrubal Cabrera. Now they're shortstop.
And the Mets really feel like they're going to get a pretty good upgrade in the middle infield with the addition of Walker, with Asdrubal Cabrera, both known as just average middle infielders from a defensive standpoint, but upgrades over what the Mets did a season ago defensively.
While with Pittsburgh, Walker could not wear the number he's wearing right now, number 20. It was retired, has been retired for many, many, many years because of legend Hall of Famer Pie Traynor. He switched to number 20 now with the Mets because that is the number that his dad wore. His dad was a big leaguer for 5 years, pitched 3 years in Montreal, wore number 20, and so Neil has taken his dad's number now that he's moved on to the Mets. Pitches high and a full count.
Volquez really working that run against these lefties. Right now against Walker, he's setting them up consistently. Last 3 pitches, starting middle, heading away. We saw that K pitch of Duda off the plate. See if he comes back inside or gets another two-seamer to run away from Walker.
Former teammates here, Walker and Volquez in 2014 in Pittsburgh. And that one is strike 3 called. So back-to-back batters rung up on borderline pitches.
Well, I wouldn't even call this borderline, guys. This ball's up. This is a ball. He's trying to get that run across the plate, but certainly up and out of the strike zone. Neil Walker, that's not a pitch he wants to even think about offering as a left-hander up and out of the zone. There's nothing he can do with that pitch. But another call goes the way of Edinson Volquez for the second called strikeout this inning.
Here's Michael Conforto now, the young outfielder. He is DHing tonight, of course, an interleague game here in an American League Park. So Conforto draws the DH assignment. He did very well when he came up for the Mets, as you can see, in just over a third of a season. Was productive, had some big hits in the postseason as well. And eventually they figure he's going to be a guy to play every day. Right now he might platoon for the most part. Juan Lagares going to get the at-bats against left-handed pitching, although the outfield configuration would change. But down the road, Jess and Aaron, this guy sure has the look of an everyday player and a good everyday player.
Even just watching him hit yesterday, there's something about him, and I remember even him at Oregon State, watching him in Omaha at the College World Series, but he's got that sneaky pop, meaning his swing is very smooth. It's not like it's super explosive, but the ball just keeps going. And watching BP yesterday, I mean, he was shooting balls out of the stadium while just looking like he's taking BP. Like, this ain't a big deal.
Had a huge game 4 in the World Series. 2 home runs for the Mets. One off Chris Young, one off Danny Duffy. Way high, ball 4.
They absolutely feel like Conforto's going to be one of their core players going forward. I think just being where the Mets are as a team, you've got a guy like Juan Lagares who's so good defensively in center field when he's right and able to handle left-handed pitching. It's just a way of easing Conforto in. But I think it won't be long, even in this season, when Michael Conforto's getting the bulk of the at-bats, even against lefties.
Here's another newcomer to the Mets. We mentioned him just a couple of moments ago as Asdrubal Cabrera. Veteran shortstop, was with Tampa Bay last year, hit 15 homers, drove in 58, limited range, and maybe limited even a little bit more. At least this spring he was. He had a knee injury, cost him about 2.5 weeks, so he and Walker didn't get a lot of reps together as a double play combo. 30 years of age, signed a 2-year deal, and a known commodity. I think with both Walker and Cabrera, the Mets know what they're getting. They're professionals. They've been around a long time.
And you think about this Mets team, Asdrubal Cabrera, who's been a very solid hitter, now hitting 8th. So it's a lineup that's very representative and should, in theory, support this awesome starting rotation. Excuse me, Cabrera hitting 7th tonight.
I mean, you think of where they are compared to where they were in the first part of last season. It's a much better, much deeper line.
Think about July, you guys, when they were struggling mightily to score a point on a given night. And then all of a sudden the influx of guys like Kelly Johnson, Juan Uribe, and of course Yoenis Cespedes changed their lineup to now they at least had some viable options. For a while there, it was almost a AAA lineup they were running out there on a nightly basis.
They were last in the league in runs scored per game. They went to first with all of those acquisitions in July. So, I mean, they completely changed the makeup of what this team is about.
1-1 from Volquez, and a ground ball under the glove of a diving Hosmer into right field. Conforto around second and on his way to third. Mets on the corners with 2 down.
Guys, it looked like a breaking ball here from Volquez that just kind of hangs in the heart of the plate, and actually Cabrera just kind of chops this ball. It looked like a pit ball that maybe Hosmer, who's obviously outstanding at first base, was going to have an opportunity on, just under his glove. And now a nice scoring opportunity here with 2 outs for the Mets to try and get back in this ball game.
Matt Harvey looking on. He had some tough luck behind him. In the bottom of the first inning, the Royals got a run before he got a double play ball. First and third, 2 down, and here's Travis d'Arnaud, the young catcher for the Mets, batting 8th, hit .268 with a dozen homers last year. Another guy who missed a lot of time because of injuries, was on the DL twice, but a guy with some pop in his bat.
Sneaky pop. You don't see a big guy there. You see the catcher hitting 8th here, but he can put a charge in the ball, and not just to the pull side. This is a guy that can work the ball the other way with power and back through the heart of the field with power.
Swung on and missed, 1-1.
There's that changeup, Jess, that just kind of, it's almost like his two-seam fastball. It's the same action, that tailing, sinking action. He'll throw it righty on righty. You just see the bottom fall out of that, and d'Arnaud reading it as a sinker, just a little bit out in front of it, in the good downward action, he's over the top of it.
Conforto at third, Cabrera at first, 2 down. And the 1-1 in the dirt, and picked nicely by Salvador Perez. Perez, one of 3 Royals to officially receive his Gold Glove Award before the game, and for Perez, his 3rd in as many years.
That's already 2 big stops in this inning. One with Conforto on first to keep him at first at the time, and there to perhaps save a run. No surprise, 3 straight now for Salvador Perez.
Hosmer and Escobar, the other Gold Glove Award winners last season for the Royals, and Alex Gordon might have won one, but he was hurt a lot. He's won 4 in his career. A great defensive team. Volquez behind now, 3-1.
This is where the cat and mouse game goes. You got to sit, look something hard out over the plate, a good pitch to hit, but also understand that a lesser hitter's behind, and with 2 outs, Volquez isn't going to just completely give in to you. He wants to make a pitch.
Grounded to third, long throw, Moustakas on a bounce in time. What a good play by Mike Moustakas. The Mets strand a couple. Covering the bases with tires for superior performance all season long. Goodyear, more driven. With Jessica Mendoza, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney, I'm Dan Schulman. Opening night baseball tonight. presented by Scott's. We're at Kauffman Stadium, the home of the World Series champion Kansas City Royals, as they take on the New York Mets. Fancy opening night lineup card too. Wow.
Is that how you write?
No. You know how I write.
I didn't know if in Canada it's a little fancier.
No, that is way out of my league.
Who do you think pulled that off?
That's Don Wakamatsu's work.
Yeah,
because when he was in Seattle, same thing. That's a Wakamatsu original right there.
Good call.
See?
Lots of pride being applied
to
that scorecard.
And those little dots are who ended the last inning, who was the last batter of the last inning, so they can just quickly look at it and see who's coming up next inning. And Matt Harvey makes quick work of Alex Gordon. We're at number 1. That'll bring up Salvador Perez, as popular in this town as any member of the team. And why not? He plays hurt. He played with all kinds of injuries in the postseason. 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove Award winner, and the MVP of the World Series. He hit .364 in the 5 games against the Mets, and was rewarded with a contract extension in the offseason. Way back when he was a pup, when he was a rookie, he signed a 5-year deal worth $7 million. And year by year, as he got better and better, that became more and more of a bargain. And there were 3 option years on that contract that the Royals could have just said, hey, you signed it, we're sticking with it. But to the credit of Dayton Moore and ownership, they saw the player they had and they signed him to a 5-year, $52 million extension to keep him in Kansas City for the foreseeable future.
And they did not have to do that. And it probably raised the ire of some other teams around the league, but it was a testament to what they believe this guy is to the organization.
We are just getting started here with the 2016 season. This is the 3rd of 3 games today on the ESPN family of networks. And look what's coming your way tomorrow. A rematch of the American League wild card game. Keuchel and Tanaka, the Astros and the Yankees. Then it's Seattle and Texas. We'll be in San Diego for the Dodgers and Padres. And lastly, the Cubs and the Angels, 10 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN2. A lot of people with some very, very high hopes for the Houston Astros this year. You have them winning the whole thing.
Winning it all.
Winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
You have, who do you have winning the whole thing?
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
But I'm with Booney. I think the Astros, maybe not winning the whole thing, but I like that team coming out of the AL West.
Anderson drifting into foul territory to make the catch. Infante retired. 3 up, 3 down on 8 pitches. Matt Harvey looking good in the second here in KC. The New York Mets. Earlier today, before the game, Jessica Mendoza caught up with the guy they call Hobbs.
Has a lot of big stars on this team. Who would you say is the biggest star right now?
We've got a lot. Salvador Perez is obviously what he's done. I think All-Stars and Gold Gloves at such a young age. I got to go with him on that one.
After winning the championship, off-season, what was probably the biggest thing you did off the field?
Coolest thing was going to the Jimmy Fallon show. Me and Salvador got to ride his plane and go out there and experience the whole nightlife show, so that was really cool.
All right, growing up, favorite team?
It was a mixture between the Yankees and Marlins. I was always a Marlins fan, but then they would always sell the team after the World Series, so I slowly became a Yankees fan. Dad's from New York, so that's why.
Favorite player?
Ken Griffey Jr. and Derek Jeter. Both on and off the field, just
Nice.
did it the right way.
I like it.
Yeah,
Probably most positive influence in your life.
It's got to be my older brother. You know, my older brother's always been there for me. He always included me with his group of friends, and I think that's what's helped me, you know, rub off on the young guys up here and just kind of have the personality I have today.
Who's your best friend on the team?
A lot of best friends. You're gonna get me in trouble asking this one, but you know, Dice, Kane, Moose, Salvador.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
There's so many of them.
Playing
There
it
really
quickly.
is.
All
Yeah,
right.
there really is.
All right, we're walking third to home. Your mad dash Game 5 in the World Series. What's one word to describe that moment?
Crazy. Just crazy. The whole, like, even just thinking back, doing all these interviews, talking about it, just thinking about it and looking, just crazy.
Awesome. Thanks, Haas.
All right, thank you.
Well, it might have been crazy, but it worked. It scored the run that tied the game into Game 5, and the Royals would score 5 runs in the 12th inning, win the World Series that night as Wander Lagares gets a bunt down the third base line, but it will roll foul. And there were just so many moments in October where a Royal took an extra base or made a daring play on the base pass, and they don't play the game according to analytics or sabermetrics. They play the game according to instinct and feel and
studying,
yeah,
but not numbers.
Yeah,
just understanding, I guess, is what it is. And it was kind of cool. Haas, you think about, he's a first baseman, right? He's not the fastest guy on the team, and I think that was the cool part about him being the runner there. But he even joked with me off camera and said, I was talking to Paul Goldschmidt last week, and we're like, we're getting first baseman back in this mix of maybe a little bit of speed, you know? And that's exactly it. Is everyone on this team has a chance to do something special.
Obviously, that interview kind of showed the kind of guy that Eric Hosmer is. And there's so many guys on this team as we look at that play from last year. David Wright kind of looking back, and Hosmer saying, I'm rolling the dice because their scouting report said we are going to force the issue against the infield defense of the New York Mets. It turned out to be a pivotal play and a statement play in last year's World Series.
little squibber out towards the mound. Volquez in time to get Lagares one down.
And I think also, guys, an understanding, you know, to put a bow on it is they were ahead 3-1. He doesn't do that if they're not 2 games ahead in that situation. And who was on the mound? Familia was on the mound. They were going to have DeGrom and Syndergaard, Game 6, Game 7, all of that inside one play of understanding the moment.
But you know what else I love about it is these guys are all good guys, easy to be around. They're fun. They're charismatic. But there's an underlying arrogance and like chip that they are not going to be denied. And I think it's very important to them, and they absolutely expect to be back in the Fall Classic and be a team in history that we talk about 20, 30 years down the road.
Well, they, in spite of what they did in 2014, making it to the World Series, taking it to the 9th inning of Game 7. So because of that, they came into 2015 with a hunger. They got so close they couldn't quite get over that last hurdle. But I think also the preseason projections, and everybody, there are projections for everything. And Baseball Prospectus and other, well-respected entities projected them for 75 wins, 76, 74, whatever the case may be. And they were the defending American League champions. And you talk about a chip on their shoulder. Every guy in that clubhouse had a chip on his shoulder heading into last season. Not just because of that, but believe me, you guys know as well as I do, it's something they were all aware of.
It annoys them.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. They kind of laugh at it and poo-poo it, but it gets under their skin a little bit, like they're picking us that low. Yeah. They know, they in their hearts believe they are the best team in the world.
1-2 the count on Granderson. Hit a fly ball to center his first time up. And a high chopper back to the mound. Volquez in time. Opening night baseball on ESPN, presented by Scott's, is brought to you by Papa John's. Papa John's is delivering a better pizza to baseball fans as the official pizza of Major League Baseball. Visit papajohns.com to learn more. And they delivered pizzas to the truck.
Well, isn't
Why
that
the
nice?
truck?
Is the booth like an extra charge or something? How about the booth?
not
Crickets.
fair.
Crickets.
I know, seriously. It's the first time all night nobody's talking in our headset.
Because they're eating pizza.
That's right. 2 down, nobody on. 1-0 Kansas City. Here's David Wright.
And there's that pitch from Volquez, and we'll see it every now and then. He's max effort on every pitch, but every now and then it becomes a real overthrow like that. And what happens over the course of the season, he'll walk a few more hitters than maybe he should. He'll make a few more mistakes, and that keeps him from being one of the true dominant aces in the game because the stuff is amazing.
Upstairs again, ball 2.
And we'll look at a comparison later on of Volquez and Harvey and the difference. The stuff is similar from a pure stuff standpoint, but the effort's a little bit different. It almost looks like Harvey's playing catch, whereas Volquez is really just put everything into it on every single pitch.
Harvey's defense betrayed him in the bottom of the first, cost him a run. 1-0 Royals, top of the third, swinging a foul back by Wright, 2-1.
Let's take a look at that motion as we see that pitch before. Gets a lot of torque. And you see that max effort. You see the head fly, and every now and then he just kind of spins off it a little too much, and it turns into a pitch maybe way up and out of the zone, or sometimes can turn into a mistake, especially with an off-speed pitch.
Boy, 3 bad misses, 3 not close pitches in this at bat to David Wright.
What he did when he was with the Pirates in 2014 was learn how to slow down in situations like this. Russell Martin, who caught him in Pittsburgh, really worked with him on that and harnessing that emotion that he fights.
Outside, ball 4.
Well, let's take a look at a few of these pitches where he's kind of lost his mechanics a little bit. First pitch blatantly just overthrows. You see him spin out of there. Same thing with the second. He misses badly up. Another pitch there up in the strike zone that he actually gets away with. That was probably a really good pitch to hit for David Wright. He had a good swing on it, but fortunately for Volquez, fouled it straight back, but then just could not dial it in from a command standpoint against David Wright there. Time to get back on point, because if he makes a mistake to Cespedes, this is the one guy, as much as any in this lineup, that can turn it into a long ball.
Well, the Mets talk pregame too about the fact that Volquez usually misses over the plate more than most high #1 ace type pitchers. But right now, I mean, honestly, lucky for the Royals that he is missing outside the zone. You'll take a 2-out walk to David Wright. What you don't want is a pitch right down the middle to Yoenis Cespedes.
It looked like Volquez was still trying to figure out what pitch he wanted to throw to Cespedes as he stepped off and just lobbed one over to first. With Wright the base runner, Cespedes grounded out his first time up. Well, he got it figured out, as we noticed in the first, and apparently everybody on Twitter noticed as well. He had the wrong hat on. He had the spring training hat on. Everybody else is wearing the official hat with the World Series logo on the side, or the World Champions logo on the side. Somebody told them they got it sorted out before the second inning.
I've been there.
Both you guys been there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I figured one of you had been there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
No, not you.
Not this one.
Him.
Oh, this other guy?
So wrong cap, both of you? Wrong caps? Wrong hat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been there, yeah.
Yeah.
Because with the Reds, we used to have the black and red and the red and black. So sometimes, you got to look at the board to see what, sleeves are going with. You got to figure it out. Just sometimes, you're in a rush. You run out there and it messes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, your head's somewhere else. I mean, you're thinking
You're
about the
counting
game.
your steps instead of looking at what hat you're supposed to be wearing. And
That was pre-step days.
yeah. Ball and a strike, the count on Cespedes. Sinking liner to center, drops in for a base hit in front of Kane. Up to second goes Wright. It's the year's first major, and we'll have the first and second rounds from Augusta right here on ESPN. Jordan Spieth looks to defend his title after last year's epic performance. The Masters, Thursday and Friday at 3 Eastern, also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app.
Opening night looks pretty good on our screen here at a beautiful Kauffman Stadium. Beautiful night. But that Masters next week. That's good looking TV. For real.
Yeah.
You're so giddy right now.
You are fired up. You got a twinkle in your eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good TV.
Yeah.
There they are.
Opening night here in Kansas City. They raised the banner tonight. Ring ceremony Tuesday night when the Mets are here again.
It's about 75 degrees.
Yeah.
Near first pitch.
Yeah, we watched the Pittsburgh game a little bit earlier today. Not baseball weather up there, but beautiful here tonight. And we'll rough it out in San Diego tomorrow. Dodgers and Padres, Clayton Kershaw, Tyson Ross, game 3 of the quadruple header on opening day, I guess, if you will, the official opening day on the ESPN family of networks. Boy, the Dodgers, so many injuries. I don't know that any team had a worse spring training in terms of health than the LA Dodgers did. They are banged up right now. Some guys who should be back fairly soon, like Kendrick and Grandal, but some guys who are going to be out for a long time, like Ethier, maybe even the entire season.
Well, that was the big thing about the Dodgers, though, is they have depth, and it's going to get challenged right off the bat. And thinking, too, Lucas Duda right now, I mean, this is game 1, second at bat, but this is where they need him to drive in runs. I mean, this is a situation perfect, 2 outs, an opportunity to get his team on the board. He was inconsistent last year offensively, but he led the team in home runs. Eliminated that big leg kick he had last year.
It's funny, some guys who didn't have it have added it, and some guys who had it have gotten rid of it.
I'll tell you what, the leg kick is probably the trendiest thing that I've seen in baseball. It's not like it's something new, it's something that's been around, but I'm even seeing it at the youth level. I mean, everyone's trying this. Let me get this big leg kick. All right, let's get it. It helps. It gets you in your swing, but Lucas Duda's case, it didn't help him with his timing. When you get that front foot that high off the ground, you got to get it down on time, and he was inconsistent with it. But he said the best thing he did was eliminate it, just have something super quiet and small. You look at it on the left. Watch how high that leg gets up. And that's a classic leg kick you're seeing in baseball. Now look at it. It's about a good half a foot less that he gets, and Kevin Long, their hitting coach, said it's helped him tremendously.
Hosmer, the stop, feeds Volquez in time. Terrific play by the Gold Glover. The Mets leave 2 more men on. We're going to the bottom of the 3rd in Kansas City, 1-0 Royals. Stadium in Kansas City, opening night baseball on ESPN, and a rematch of the World Series with the Royals leading the Mets 1-0. Matt Harvey on the mound for the Mets tonight. An unearned run in the first. There was an error and a pass ball. He breezed through the second, and now he faces Raymond Fuentes on the team in the lineup, batting ninth, playing right field. You can see his numbers from a year ago at AAA. Gerard Dyson is on the DL right now with an oblique injury for Kansas City. Could be back in a couple of weeks. So Fuentes took advantage of his opportunity. Former first-round pick by Boston in 2009. I hope to get Dyson back in a couple of weeks. Great speed and obviously range in the outfield. Fuentes was traded from Boston to San Diego in the Adrian Gonzalez deal, as he hits a soft liner to short, then eventually traded to Kansas City in 2014. Spent a year at AAA, now up with the big club. Welcome back to opening night baseball on ESPN, presented by Scott's. We mentioned two games earlier today. The Pirates defeated the Cardinals 4-1. Francisco Liriano was in midseason form for Pittsburgh, and he drove in the first run of the season. And then Toronto defeated Tampa Bay 5-3. Marcus Stroman over Chris Archer. Troy Tulowitzki with a home run for the Blue Jays.
How about the Stro show? All this talk, David Price is gone. Can Marcus Stroman be the ace? I mean, I think through the first 7 innings, he had 14 ground balls. I mean, he went the complete game. Impressive. In Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Alcides Escobar the batter, and Harvey ahead of him 0-2. Escobar last year in 16 playoff games. In the first at bat he had in those 16 games, he swung at the first pitch 13 times. 0-2 roller out to second here. Routine play for Neil Walker. Remember, one of the ones where he didn't swing was where Noah Syndergaard buzzed the tower, right? So he couldn't swing at that one.
It's just get out of the way.
Yeah.
But it's a great contrast in these two teams. Curtis Granderson really is basically the exact opposite. In 25 postseason plate appearances last year, he did not swing at a first pitch, and of course walked 91 times a year. So completely different leadoff hitters for these two teams. Power and patience and aggressiveness and barreling it up.
And Grandy's probably more your classic leadoff guy.
Yep.
I mean, Escobar is definitely the outlier when you think classic what a leadoff batter does. But that's pretty much the Royals in a nutshell. They're outside the box.
Ball and a strike now on Mike Moustakas. Harvey has set down 6 in a row.
Booney, you talked about this off the top. Harvey utilizes 4 pitches, and his last outs in the second inning were doing just that. He was really going strong with the slider, setting up with his fastball, coming in with his curveball, and then his changeup. And what I like about him utilizing those 4 pitches is it changes the eye level. You see the last fastball up and in, it's a ball, but I think where that's key is the location. Now if he goes with something low in the zone, like his changeup, his slider, he's changing the eye level for Moustakas.
Trying to do it right there, but he missed low ball 3.
Well, and it's hard to get a bead on just what off-speed pitch he's going to go with. As a hitter, you want to eliminate things. You know, obviously you're on fastball, and then you want to hopefully deal with 1 off-speed pitch. When you've got to deal with 3 off-speed pitches that he uses equally, it makes it more challenging. Little change up there, huh? Just kind of took something off that 2-seamer.
And this Mets staff in general gets so much credit for how hard they throw. And, you know, it's not like people don't talk about their secondary pitches, but this is what sets them apart. The fact that they're able to go to other tools in the toolbox besides, oh, by the way, 95-96.
Swing and a miss by Moustakas. Second strikeout of the night for Harvey. 7 in a row set down by the Dark Knight. Buster Olney will speak with Terry Collins when we come back. Mets manager Terry Collins.
Terry, so far, how would you assess Matt Harvey?
Well, he's been throwing good. He had a little bit of a rough first inning, but you know we make a play and he's pitching great right now. He's in a good rhythm and he's making the pitches he needs to do.
Yeah, the medical situation early last week. How much bearing does that have for you tonight in deciding how long to go with him?
Well, you know, again, we'll just kind of monitor him during the game, but you know the doctors have given him a clear bill of health, and you know he was ready to go 100 pitches, and we'll probably keep him around that tonight.
Terry, thanks. Back to you.
All right, Buster, thank you. So again, about a week ago, the Mets announced that Matt Harvey had an unspecified non-arm, non-baseball related medical situation. A day later, it came out that it was blood clots in his bladder. He passed the blood clots. He's on medication, but he seems fine. He's throwing great. He sure looks fine. So he makes the opening day start, and part of what could be the best rotation in baseball. And not only talent, I mean, they're so young too, and the upside is so enormous for this Mets rotation. Down 1-0 here in the top of the fourth. Neil Walker leading it off against Edinson Volquez, who's already at 62 pitches. And again, an issue sometimes for Volquez because the command comes and goes. Even though the stuff is great, falls behind some deep counts, some long at bats, and whereas some other guys can do 7 or 8, he's more often a 6-inning guy, even with the power stuff.
And the good thing is, with the Kansas City bullpen, Dan, you can live with a 5 or 6 inning pitcher.
Ned Yost said to us before the game, you know, we feel pretty comfortable at the end of the bullpen. You know, we got Hochevar, and we got Herrera, and we got Soria, and we got Davis. And I would think Ned sleeps very well at night as Walker grounds out.
Oh, no, by the way, Chien-Ming Wang made the team out of spring training, and apparently he's throwing the ball, that bowling ball sinker that he was known for in New York when he was winning 19 games. He had that going this spring, and he's going to figure into that bullpen mix. As good as their bullpen has been the last couple of seasons, there's potentially a chance on paper, at least going into the season, that it's maybe better than it was a year ago with the addition of Soria, with some of the depth they now even have in the middle innings. But you can see last season what they were able to accomplish as we look at Chien-Ming Wang, now part of that bullpen.
Ned Yost said he had a talk with the 4 guys towards the end of the pen: Hochevar, Herrera, Soria, Davis, and he said, listen, each of you can pitch anywhere in those 4 innings, and we all know that. He said he is not going to pitch anybody 3 days in a row, at least for the first month, maybe for the first 2 months of the season. But then he's got a luxury. If Davis has pitched twice in a row, Soria can close. He's certainly done it before. Herrera can close. So I mean, if you put the Mets rotation and the Royals bullpen together, lights out.
Don't give me a bet.
Outside, 2 balls and a strike to Michael Conforto.
Well, what's cool to see is across baseball the trend that's starting. Not that the Royals are the first to do it, but with the Yankees and how they're building their 7, 8, 9 guys. They get Chapman and Miller and Betances, and it's across the board.
There's no question what the Yankees have done. The Red Sox went out. They traded for Carson Smith, who's injured right now. They traded for Craig Kimbrell. The Blue Jays traded for Drew Storn and then considered having Aaron Sanchez in their bullpen just to have that power type Kansas City bullpen at the end. But Sanchez pitched so well they were forced to put him in the rotation.
Astros, Booney's team. Giles and Gregerson now.
Well, I mean, think about it now, going back the last several years now. Every World Series champion at the end of the year, we look back, and usually the bullpen played a gigantic role in it, and were able to shut down games and win the games you're supposed to. The Royals have certainly epitomized that the last couple of years, and certainly last year with their first World Championship in 30 years.
Now you saw the banner that they raised tonight in honor of the 2015 World Series. I mean, the Royals knew if they're tied after 6, they got a better chance to win the game than you do, whoever you are, just because of the depth and power in that bullpen. And we shouldn't forget that was after Greg Holland went out with an injury. Greg Holland's now a free agent. They did not re-sign him, but he was their closer. Davis moved into the closing role and went from being probably the top setup man in baseball to maybe the top closer in baseball. And look at these numbers in the 5 games against the Mets, what the Royals bullpen did in the World Series. Look at the strikeout to walk ratio.
And I think that's why you can have a guy like Volquez. I mean, that's why you see a lot of their starters, Booney, you mentioned it earlier, why they can go all out, max effort, because they know they only need to get to a certain point.
Their starters last year, Kansas City's in the regular season, were 12th out of 15 teams in the American League in ERA, and were last, dead last in innings. Now, part of that, again, is they can afford to go earlier because they got so many great arms. 0-2 the count on Cabrera. A sellout, of course, here at Kauffman Stadium as the Royals and the Mets open up the 2016 season. They'll meet again on Tuesday night. Noah Syndergaard on the mound for the Mets. And Chris Young will be on the mound as the Royals have had to juggle the order of their starters this week a couple of times. There's a ground ball to first. That is a foul ball. Follow live baseball with the MLB.com at Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Cabrera trying to hang in with Volquez. The count is 0-2. Base hit for Cabrera. Past a diving Hosmer his first time up. Pitch in the dirt. Throw down to first. Back in safely is Conforto.
Doing it again, guys. I mean, that's as good as getting. That's a tough one right there. Not only to block, but he catches it clean. He gets that big body shifted over on that off-speed pitch, catches it clean, and then almost catches Conforto drifting off a little bit. The snap tag down there at first, but Conforto fortunately to barely get back. Gold Glover to Gold Glover, almost erased a runner.
Popped up on the infield. Escobar for out number 2. Some of the fans started going into their Moose chant, and then Moustakas gave way to Escobar. They had to back off on that. Next half inning, we'll hear from Ned Yost as he speaks with Buster Olney. The Royals winning the World Series last year, 30 years after they won it in 1985. When they were led by one of the all-time greats, George Brett, who we bumped into before the game downstairs. Still looks like he could go out there and hit about 280, 290, doesn't he?
Yeah.
300.
He really does.
Yeah. Let's round up to 300.
I think Booney's got a good impersonation, too. I heard.
I dabble.
He does dabble in impersonation.
There he is.
George Brett, the man behind there he is, in 1980.
Looking regal, isn't he?
He does. He hit 390. 390. He won 3 batting titles. The first and the last were 14 years apart. He won one as a 23-year-old, won one as a 37-year-old. Runner goes. Throw from his knees and out at second. Infante got the tag on Conforto as he was sliding by. We may have a video review. We may have a challenge. And now the Royals are coming off the field, and now Conforto's coming off, so the Mets won't challenge. Boy, a good throw by Perez, and what a good play by Infante to end the inning. Moments ago, Ned Yost with Buster Olney.
Ed, we just saw that inning end with the throw by Salvador Perez. Describe what you saw.
Well, he does that as well as anybody. Guys get huge jumps. He can throw from his knees, and he can throw it very accurately and very powerfully. But he's just as good as they come doing that.
How much longer with Volquez, and who do you imagine is coming out first?
Well, right now, it depends. He's at 75 pitches, still throwing the ball really, really well. We'll look and see how next inning goes, but our bullpen's set up right now depending on what we need. Hoach in the 6th, Herrera in the 7th, Story in the 8th, and of course Wade Davis in the 9th if we need him.
Ned, thanks.
Thank you, Buster.
Meanwhile, Lorenzo Cain, first pitch swinging, lines a base hit into center field. That's the first hit for the Royals since the Hosmer RBI single back in the first inning. We got another balloon on the field.
And here's, guys, where you might see the running game start to come into play for the Royals. Cain, obviously a guy who's one of their main base stealers. Harvey, while he's not slow to home plate, not overly quick. And remember, last World Series, the Royals really wanted to make Travis d'Arnaud throw them out. For the most part, he was unable.
d'Arnaud, during the regular season, threw out a respectable 33% of opposing base stealers, but in the postseason was 0 for 11. Cain 28 steals during the year last year. The infield playing Hosmer to pull. Not a full shift. Cabrera still on the shortstop side of the bag. And a bouncing ball will get through into right field, a base hit. Cain around second, heading for third, and in there easily.
And Hosmer is just one of those few hitters that likes that ground ball contact. And you watch him just chop this ball. I mean, he doesn't even get all the way through his swing because he's trying to do just this. He's had 2 hits now on perfectly placed balls. And look at Lorenzo Cain just get on his horse and take third. It was really, again, a ground ball out, but placed perfectly, and that's been Hosmer his entire career.
So Cain singles on the first pitch, Hosmer singles on the first pitch, and now here's Morales, who grounded into a double play his first time up. Hit the ball sharply, but hit it right at Walker, the second baseman.
You can tell the Royals are talking. All right, we've had a couple of bats. What are our adjustments against Harvey? And it's clear their game plan is right now in the 4th inning, we're going to look early for something hard in the zone that we can hit.
And guys, the best player, I'm sorry, Jess, the best player in doing that on this team when you talk to other Royals is Kendry Morales. Other players say he will go into a video room, he'll study for a couple hours, he'll come out with specific adjustments for his teammates, and they say in game he's terrific at picking up what the pitcher's doing.
Yeah, Buster, I grabbed him before the game. I was like, all right, what were you scouting on Harvey? What kind of video were you watching? And he's like, you know, it's not fair because, you know, this is a new year. He's a different pitcher. You can't watch old video, so we'll have to do in-game adjustments.
Meanwhile, with the speed of Cain at third, Hosmer bluffed to start on the first pitch, so d'Arnaud steps out from behind the plate, relays a set of signs to the infield, how they will handle it if Hosmer goes. And this is one of the things, and you talked about it before, both of you guys did. With the exception maybe of Morales, anybody is liable to run. You can't really predict. It's not just the quickest guys who are going to run. If the situation dictates it, Rusty Kuntz, the first base coach, now whispering in the ear of Hosmer, if the situation dictates it, they'll put a play on. But always aggressive.
I think here with Morales, you won't see anything until at least with no outs, just because you don't want to maybe somehow run into a double play with one of your best RBI men up here when you've got a chance to build a lead here in the middle innings.
Chased one way out of the zone, 2-1. He was smelling those RBIs.
For the most part, Harvey's been in control. This is not a pitch by design, just gets away with one up. Morales, like you said, smelling that RBI a little too aggressive. Goes swinging up around the letters.
Fly ball left center, plenty deep enough to score Cain. Sac fly, 2-0 Kansas City.
Well, what a great adjustment from a great RBI hitter. 2-0, gets a little excited, a little aggressive, chases a bad pitch, but then just kind of steps out, collects himself, and just thinks, I need to get something that I can drive in the air through the middle of the diamond, gets a pitch up and out over the plate, And mission accomplished. Royals up 2-0.
And as they did so often last October, scoring a run on something other than a base hit. In 16 playoff games last year, they scored 17 runs on what's known as productive outs. Could be a ground ball, could be a sac fly, whatever the case may be. So about a run per game scoring on something other than a base hit. Here's Alex Gordon. Gordon struck out his first time up. And opening day or opening night has not been kind to Alex Gordon over the course of his career. He's now 3 for 32 in his career on opening day. There are only 2 players who have entered the major leagues since 1973 who have a worse average on opening day. One is Hunter Pence, such a great player, 1 for 26. The other, whose work I'm not as familiar with, Aaron Boone, went 2 for 25 on opening day. And was trying to calculate how many at-bats Gordon would need to have tonight without a hit so that Gordon would fall below you on the list. The answer is too many. I think 6 or 7, something like that. But in Aaron's defense, he did point out humbly that he did have a walk-off sac fly once on opening day. So.
And Hunter, a hit's gonna. All he needs is a couple of hits here the next couple of years.
And you're done.
Yeah.
And they're going to rename it.
Yeah.
You know, you have an offer on opening day. They're going to say, "Oh, did you get boonied today?" You know, I mean, this could be a thing.
I mean, I want to start it as a thing. We could just talk about it throughout the season.
Well, fortunately for Aaron, the double play ends the inning, and we'll find a new topic when we come back. Yeah, we know. The Royals leading the Mets 2-0 here on opening night. Presented by Scott, Stan Schulman, Jessica Mendoza, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney with you here at Kauffman Stadium on the night they raised the World Series championship banner for the Royals last year. Edinson Volquez, 76 pitches as he works into the 5th. Travis d'Arnaud leads it off and takes a strike. After d'Arnaud, it'll be Juan Lagares, and then back to the top of the order for Curtis Granderson. Chopper weakly hit foul up the third baseline, 0-2. Join Major League Baseball, New Era, and the 30 clubs as we celebrate opening day. Show your team pride by wearing your favorite cap tomorrow and share on social media using hashtag #CapsOn for a chance to win prizes. Tune into all the opening day action tomorrow on ESPN. So we're getting with the spirit of things on opening day. We've each brought a cap. So why Reds? Start with you.
That's where I spent the bulk of my career.
Where I spent the bulk of your career.
So I consider myself.
I grew up in LA in the 80s. This is the team I was watching. Are you kidding me?
Fair.
Kirk Gibson? Where are you from?
And I grew up in Toronto before the 80s.
If it was cold out, would that be a Toronto Blue Jay toque?
No, this is not a toque.
No?
This is not a toque. We've had this. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
would
I have a toque? Oh, absolutely.
You lost 80% of our viewers
Absolutely.
because no one knows what a toque is.
Sorry, there's the logo.
It's a beanie.
It's a beanie. So, and I can actually say I was at the original game, April 7th, 77, in the snow.
Wow.
Against the Chicago White Sox.
Toqued up.
I don't know if I was toqued up because legend has it that 10-year-old Danny bailed after 5 innings because it was kind of cold. I know that comes as a shock to you.
Yeah, not really.
I put it on a tee for you. I didn't have to do that. Darno strikes out. So Kirk Gibson was your guy growing up, Judge?
It was actually Brett Butler, which is a more unknown name. But when you're watching Dodger games a lot, when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, and I like the short swing. I like the fact that he was very Royals-esque and putting the ball in play a lot. Wasn't a big strikeout guy, and I related to that. It's always fun watching ball when you're young and picking someone that you relate to and feeling like you're impersonating them every time you're up to bat.
Now, for both of you, was there a moment where a player you loved as a kid, you went on to meet that player as an adult, and what was that moment like? Did you meet Brett Butler? Have you met Kirk Gibson, or some of the Reds that you met?
Early on, I wanted to meet.
Or some of the Phillies, I guess you met, because when you were a kid, your dad was with the Phillies.
Yeah, but early on, I wanted to meet George Foster. So I'll never forget meeting him in the bowels of Veterans Stadium. Walking down as a 4-year-old kid, my mom took me by the hand, and I got to meet George Foster, and that was a big deal.
I remember Earl Hershiser working. It wasn't until I worked at ESPN. I got to work a College World Series in Omaha. See the ground out there, and I was so giddy, and I hate being giddy. You know what I mean? Because I think any ball player, I don't care who you are, we're all normal people. Like, everybody's the same. So I never like to give anyone, but when you grow up and you watch just a certain group of players, I was like, and I'm working with them in the booth, and I'm just like,
he's the bulldog.
Yeah, and we had a bats that they gave us, and I was like, can you maybe sign my bat? I'm a big fan. It was so awkward, but that's me, and I was.
And you were giddy.
Yeah. No, you get giddy. We've seen you giddy.
Yeah, I get giddy around you guys. That'll go away real quick, though. I'm getting to know you. It's not a big deal.
2 down in the inning. Curtis Granderson is the batter. 1-0 or 2-0 rather. Kansas City, the lead here in the top of the 5th. Volquez has allowed just 2 hits tonight.
And I like the way that he's done it. I mean, he's kind of sneaky. We've seen so much of his stuff just be nowhere near the zone. That kind of all right, he's getting tired. Is he losing it? And then he comes back in with just filthy stuff over the plate. Just shows kind of the variance of what Volquez can do, and it gets in the minds of hitters. And that's dirty.
2 terrific starting pitchers, both pitching well tonight. One of the runs unearned. Charged to Harvey, an error and a pass ball in the 1st inning. 2 hits and a sac fly. Scored a run off him in the 4th inning. Wow. Nasty stuff. Tag applied, and the inning is over. Strikeout number 4 for Volquez. 5 shutout innings for the righty. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, covering the bases with tires for superior performance all season long. Goodyear, more driven. Opening night here in Kansas City, the Royals and the Mets. The Royals leading 2-0. With Aaron Boone, Jessica Mendoza, Buster Olney, I'm Dan Schulman. It is the bottom third of the order for the Royals, beginning with Salvador Perez. Grounded out his first time up. He'll be followed by Omar Infante and then Raymond Fuentes. They face Matt Harvey, who has been very good tonight, at times overpowering. It really should be a 1-0 game. He retired 7 in a row before Kane and Hosmer opened up the fourth inning with first pitch swinging base hits. Morales delivered the sac fly. 2 double play balls behind Harvey tonight, as he anchors what could be the best rotation in baseball this year. Certainly the most talked about rotation in baseball. Noah Syndergaard, Jacob deGrom, Steven Matz, Bartolo Colon, and they hope middle of the season Zach Wheeler as he continues his comeback from Tommy John surgery.
Besides this stuff, guys, I mean, the mental makeup of those 4 guys is, I think, what stands out even beyond, which is incredible, the secondary, the fastball that we talk about. But even watch Matt Harvey tonight, the way he walks around the mound. Noah Syndergaard, same way. I mean, he's a young guy coming up, but he so competitive, so fierce. Jacob deGrom the same way, and the young Steven Matz, Bartolo Colon, all of them. Zach Wheeler, who's going to return. I mean, their mental makeup, they are so stoic. Harvey tonight, regardless if he's down, you can't tell.
Aaron, what do you expect from Steven Matz in his first full season?
Well, I think it's another guy with that elite upside, and I think you're going to see it. Struggled a little bit to kind of find his way in spring training. Not that big a deal because the stuff, and again, it's a different look.
Let's take a look now at our See the Difference replay, brought to you by Maui Gym.
Well, let's take a look at Matt Harvey tonight. He's established all his pitches here against Alex Gordon. Curveball to get the second strike, changeup out in front of a fastball to Salvador Perez, that slider that disappears down in the zone, and then here to Moustakas, a 3-1 changeup, and then finishes him with a 91-mile-an-hour slider down and in. All 4 pitches he's had a very good feel for tonight.
Omar Infante. 2-hopper down to third, right, long throw, big stretch, but not in time. Infante safely across.
You know, it just seemed like David Wright was a little careful there making that play. Perhaps not knowing that Infante was going to get down the line as good as he did. Looks like a little slider. David does a good job of giving ground to get the good hop, which is no problem, but I think he probably thought he had more time than he actually did. Infante able to just beat that throw across, not able to get quite enough on that throw down there at third.
So 1 on, 1 out for Fuentes. Shows bunt, and he takes outside, ball 1. Fuentes lined out to short his first time up.
3 of the 4 hits tonight for the Royals have been on ground balls. I mean, and not hard ground balls, not I got barrel on this ground ball, but really a ground ball, what could have been an out, but because of speed, placement, whatever, they've gotten on base.
Runner goes, and it's poked foul by Fuentes. Well, it's easy to speculate, but hard to know whether David Wright's back situation is impacting him on a night-to-night basis, whether it affects him more on a swing or a throw, what the situation may be, whether that's a play he would have made a couple of years ago.
Well, it just looks like he's careful in making sure he moves over there methodically, probably thinking he had a little more time with Infante running, but normally when you're fully healthy, you run over there and you rip that play, and it's a non-issue. He kind of takes his time, makes sure his body's in position, and then is unable to get a lot on that throw. Infante able to beat it.
Well, a good chance they'll have a play on again here. They did it 1-0. Let's see if they do it 2-1. not going. And it's ball 3. Quintus spent some time with San Diego 2013, got 33 at-bats in the big leagues that year. Now back with the Royals here with the bigs in 2016 as he pops one up. Cabrera drifting back, shoos away Cespedes, and makes the catch 2 down, which will take us now to our Mendoza line. Just take it away.
Well, we just mentioned David Wright and spinal stenosis and how it affects his game plan, his preparation, and this is a guy who, just to be able to get warm, I mean, he's got 3 hours of warm-up, recovery before the game, after the game. This is before he even touches a ball. You mentioned the ground balls earlier, Booney. He used to take 50. Now it's down to 10. I mean, he's had to limit himself, and this is the big one. BP. This is something, he was a cage rat. He used to take around 60+ swings. Now max amount of swings pregame, 20. And you think about that, Booney. Like, you get to the cage, you get to the park early, you're taking swings off the tee, you're maybe getting some early cuts in the indoor cage, then you go out to the field and how many rounds you take on the outdoor batting cage. I mean, 20 swings, and that's 4 rounds of 5. Like, and that's your max.
Especially nowadays. Hitters today, players today, they do so much hitting from the time they get to the ballpark, partly because the facilities.
Dropping and in for a base hit off the bat of Escobar. Throw to third, not in time. Infante in just ahead of the tag.
Well, Royals pushing the envelope again, going first to third. We saw him do it earlier with no outs, here with 2 outs. Infante making the judgment that he could get to third base. It's a close play as you see the Mets coaching staff deciding if they want to challenge this. Lagares does a good job of getting behind this ball and getting a lot on the throw.
And it's the slide.
Yep, although it looks like Terry Collins is coming out to challenge this. Is that tag on him? I think he's in there.
But it's the sell, that pop-up slide, as opposed to just staying down and in. Watch him pop up, and the pop-up is the sell, regardless if they get him or not. It's the sell of coming up, saying, I'm here, as soon as he gets to the bag.
So the ruling on the field is safe. Is there enough evidence to overturn it? There might be.
And remember, that's now, close. It's not the laces of the glove anymore. Yeah. It's got to be the actual glove. So it's not just the tip, but it's right. He gets the whole glove. It's close.
It's hard to know definitively. Again, remember the call on the field is safe. It's hard to know for certain that that glove is on Infante before that foot gets the bag. It might be on it there, but from any of those angles that we have, do we know that definitively? I would say no. Right here, is it there yet? Maybe, but is it for sure there? I don't know. I don't know if you can overturn that.
It's one of those, no matter what the call was on the field, it would be hard to change it
yes.
to the opposite call.
Yes.
It's that close. Matt Harvey will take some warm-up tosses as the review is still going.
And frankly, not surprised that it is taking a little bit longer, trying to get every angle because it is so close and so hard to determine.
Well, because you almost need to see exactly when does the actual glove hit him.
Yep.
Not enough to determine it out.
And I think they're right in that decision.
And it will stay as safe. So first and third, 2 down. An infield hit for Infante. A little flare for Escobar. And here comes Moustakas. He has reached on an error and scored and struck out. The official ruling is it stands. So there's a difference. The end result is the same between confirmed and stands. But there's the runner going from first. No throw down to second by Darno. Escobar with a stolen base. They just don't give you a chance to breathe. know, the way that many teams are trying to play, it's on base percentage, take walks, hit for power. These guys don't have a lot of power. They don't take walks, but they put the ball in play for their ballpark with the talent that they have. Putting the ball in play, putting the pressure on the other team, using their athleticism. It's a style that wouldn't work for every team in every ballpark, but it sure as heck works here.
And it's shown up tonight. It's been Royals baseball at its finest. The two threats that the Mets had, two fine defensive plays, one by Moustakas over the bag at third to retire d'Arnaud, and a diving play by Hosmer to rob Duda. That a lesser defense, maybe 2 runs.
Ground ball right to Walker at second to end the inning. The Royals leave runners on second and third. They still lead 2-0. David Wright will lead it off when we come back. Presented by Scott's. Dan Scholl and Jessica Mendoza, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney. Glad you're with us tonight in Kansas City and inviting you to join us again tomorrow. 4 games on the ESPN family of networks. We will be in San Diego at beautiful Petco Park. The Padres opening up against the Dodgers. 7 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock locally in San Diego. Right here on ESPN. 4 games coming your way. 1, 4, 7, and 10. There's 3 games around baseball today. 12 more tomorrow, including 4 on ESPN or ESPN2. Astros and Yankees at 1 o'clock Eastern. Keuchel and Tanaka. And Felix Hernandez against Cole Hamels. Seattle and Texas, as mentioned, will be in San Diego. Kershaw and Ross, and then Jake Arrieta. And the Cubs taking on Garrett Richards and the Angels. We talked about Houston a little bit earlier. Texas, a playoff team a year ago. A whole season of Hamels. And they got a chance to be a great team, too. That could be a terrific race in the American League West.
Especially if Yu Darvish comes back next
Yeah.
month and is Yu Darvish. I mean, Hamels, Darvish at the top with that offense they potentially run out there.
And their bullpen doesn't get talked about a lot. They were so strong second half. They get overlooked.
Yep.
And I know, Aaron, in talking to you, you feel the same way I do. Rougned Odor is about ready to
buckle up.
Right. He can play. He's going to put up some numbers.
Guys, they got a lot of guys coming back on layaway, whether it's Yu Darvish, expected back in mid-May. They have some tremendous position players in the minor leagues. And Matt Bush, former #1 pick, who looked great in spring training.
You saw Luke Hochevar up in the pen right now for Kansas City. If Volquez cannot get through this inning, then Hochevar will be asked to take care of the 6th, Herrera the 7th, Soria the 8th, Davis the 9th. They've got an off day tomorrow. These two teams play again on Tuesday. And both teams actually have 2 off days before they resume their games on Friday. High fly ball down the right field line. Fuentes over near the pole, and it winds up foul deep down the line.
You know, we've talked about Volquez, and obviously he's been very good tonight, but there's been times where he's gotten a little out of his mechanics and started spraying that fastball, as we've talked about, and he's missed a couple of spots out over the plate. There looked like another one to David Wright that he had a good swing on, but just wasn't quite able to do damage. That just tells you the stuff that Volquez has.
And a 3-2 ground ball. Big 2-hopper to short. Easy play for Escobar.
Well, and Volquez has been kind of all over the map. I mean, he's had some big misses, and you saw early on, and it's not just close. It is way out of the zone, but then he comes in with the nasty stuff. Look against righties, the sinker, that late break, sawing off the bat of Cespedes, and then the front door to the lefties, both with Duda. I mean, he's able to just be able to get that movement, but his setup a lot of times for those is all over the map.
Well,
we're seeing both.
I think it also speaks to his maturity. At times in his career, when he had great stuff and he'd start to lose it, he couldn't fix himself or self-correct within the game. And we've seen him time and time again tonight kind of back down a little bit, back off that mound for a second, and regain those mechanics, and a few times has gotten a couple of big outs in big spots.
Live K-Zone all game is brought to you by Hankook Tire. 1-0 to Cespedes, just below the knees. Ball 2. Cespedes with a ground out and a base hit so far tonight. So the game plan appears to be, for the most part, and ignore tonight because it's an unusual situation, interleague game in an American League park. But the game plan for the Mets appears to be Cespedes will play center against righties because Conforto will be in left. And then against lefties, Terry Collins will put Lagares in center and Cespedes in left. And as Collins quite simply put it to us before the game, I got a Gold Glover in center. Lagares won one 2 years ago. And I got a Gold Glover in left. Cespedes won one last year as a Tiger, actually. So that's the way they will do it. So in effect, Conforto and Lagares will be platooning for the most part, just not at the same position.
Back-to-back pitches there, behind in the count, now coming up on 100 pitches at 98. 2 fastballs that he throws right past the number 3 hitter for the New York Mets in hitters counts. The stuff for Volquez still electric.
Two. Got it. Strikeout number 5 for Volquez. Opening night baseball on ESPN, presented by Scott's, is brought to you by the all-new LG G5. Life's good when you play more. And Courtyard, the official hotel of the NFL. Two down here in the inning. And Ned Yost asking Volquez to get one last out here. He'll face Lucas Duda, who's 0 for 2.
Look for that front door again. We showed it in the K-Zone package, but against these lefties, and Duda right now especially, because he can really hurt you with that inner part of the plate. But if it looks like it's coming at you, which is Volquez's plan, and he starts on the first base side of the rubber already, so that angle to get that run on this pitch. And there it is.
Only David Ortiz and Chris Davis had the shift against them as often as Lucas Duda did last year. Good changeup, 1-2.
A changeup which has been effective for him all night long. Got him an out of Cespedes to finish him off with the ground out, and now back-to-back strikes here to get ahead against Lucas Duda.
Now back to the breaking ball and a foul off. It remains 1-2.
Just 3 off-speed pitches now in a row. You think now maybe is the time to cut loose with one more real good fastball, elevate it in the zone a little bit, try and run it back. Might get your wish.
And they're chanting Eddie, Eddie for Edinson Volquez. Placed foul by Duda. Pitch count over 100. Hochevar ready. If Duda were to reach, this could be the last batter. Ned Yost could make the move and ask Hochevar to just get one out.
I think without question, this is the last hitter of the night for Volquez. We're starting his last 2 hitters now. That fastball velocity has been down below 95, where it routinely has been above all night long. That one, bit of a mistake. Duda just yanked it foul.
Close, but no.
This is what you expect. He comes inside 94 and then he pulls the string 84. He just leaves it a little bit up, but he gets this about 2 inches lower. That's strike 3.
And a ground ball to Hosmer to end the inning, and in all likelihood the night for Edinson Volquez, who gets a huge ovation here at Kauffman Stadium. Win the game and win the World Series in the 12th. Matt Harvey wasn't good that night. He was brilliant that night, and he talked his way back into the game in the 9th inning. He had thrown 8 innings of 4-hit shutout ball, then gave up the walk and the double in the 9th. Terry Collins was going to take him out, and Harvey, who can be a very stubborn, determined guy, talked his way back in. Terry Collins has always said, if I'm going to send a guy back out and the first batter reaches base and then I'm going to pull him, I'd rather not send him out. I don't want my pitchers to know they have that slim of a margin for error. So he left him for the second batter, and then he gave up the double. But Aaron, you and I were sitting, well, in Citi Field, but in the exact vantage point that we are right now, it was as electric an atmosphere as you could ever imagine. And anybody at Citi Field who said they disagreed with Harvey coming back out, that place went bananas when he came back out for the ninth. Yeah, they loved it.
I think very few people had issue with him going back out there, and I would probably include the three of us in that. But I think we both felt like after the walk, I think it was time to go get Familia, who, even though he had blown a couple of saves, they still had all kinds of confidence. It wasn't a confidence issue in not trusting Familia. It was believing Harvey, who really cruised through the 8th inning, had plenty left, and I agree.
And he was passionate. I mean, granted, now passion shouldn't drive decisions, but you put him back in, but the leash has to be short in that situation. Maybe not across the board throughout the season, but the World Series, you pull him.
But you know what, you go back to August, September when the whole innings thing came up, and you know, Harvey got caught in the middle of that. He didn't say much for a while. They skipped him a little bit, and you have to believe that within him, I mean, how much more important could it be than just a World Series game? But within him, he had a burning desire to go out there and keep pitching as long as they would let him pitch. Let's take a look at tonight's pitching summary, brought to you by Carhartt. Dan Worthen, the pitching coach for the Mets, on the phone down to their bullpen right now. Harvey has pitched well, has economized his pitches a lot more than Volquez did, but it's Volquez and the Royals with a 2-0 lead right now. A couple of double plays behind Harvey tonight. He'll be looking for another one here. The batter is Eric Hosmer, who has started his 2016 season well, a couple of base hits and an RBI. And there's always been talk about Hosmer as terrific a player as he is. For whatever reason, people seem to think there's another level in terms of power. He hit 18 home runs last year. His career high is 19 as a rookie. Do you guys think 25-30 is in the cards for this guy?
I think it's about his approach. And I was actually just going to say right now, he's got 2 ground ball base hits, and this is the perfect time for him to let loose a little bit. He has the swing in him, but his approach is probably one of the biggest ground ball, I'm going to just hit contact type swings. But he has the power, and I think right here, this at bat is where you see Eric Hosmer maybe just get a big one.
I had some players on the team predict to me in spring training that he was going to have a bigger year power-wise because they feel like he's stronger, and they said they could see that right from the first rounds of batting practice he took in the spring.
The ballpark doesn't help him. It's a big yard. He's going to try to bunt for a base hit. Right bare hands, throws, and doesn't get him.
And this is where they continue to just go against everything you predict. Runner on first base. He's had 2 hits with a ground ball. Again, he's a first baseman. He's not your fast guy, but he reads the defense. He understands. He knows David Wright. He understands exactly the play with Cabrera laying down this bunt beautifully and diving into first base to get safe.
I mean, it turns out it makes you difficult to shift against. It makes you just more difficult to play against. And now with a 2-0 lead and that bullpen now looming for the Kansas City Royals, you just kind of let it hang out a little bit offensively, be willing to take chances, and now you've set the table for the middle of your order to blow this thing open.
And how many times do you hear dive into first doesn't get you there faster? Hosmer knows that. He's doing it because that's exactly the type of player he is. And you felt this place explode when he dove into first.
Bartolo Colon up in the pen right now for the Mets. Of course, he is a starter, but with all the off days for these 2 teams this week, both managers can afford to get creative. So Colon throwing, first and second, nobody out. Kendrys Morales, the batter. So the Royals have 6 hits tonight. Hosmer's got what really could have been a double play ball if the infield is positioned normally back in the first. He's got a bunt hit. Infante's got an infield hit. Escobar had a flare into center field, but because they don't strike out, because they put it in play as much as they do, and generally speaking, they've got a lot of speed at a lot of different spots in the batting order. They just have a knack for finding holes and reaching base when other teams are swinging and missing.
And really, it's against a pitcher tonight in Matt Harvey, who's obviously as dominant as they come, and for the most part has been in command of what he's wanted to do on the mound, and they've just kind of manufactured runs in that Royal way.
Could be 2, and it is on the slow-footed Morales. So Kane is at third now with 2 down. That's the 3rd double play the Royals have hit into tonight, 2 of them by Morales.
There's that new middle of the infield for the New York Mets, turning another double play and perhaps keeping the Mets in this game as the Royals threaten to bust it open again with that bullpen looming.
Kelvin Herrera now up in the Kansas City pen after Volquez got out of the 6th. That signaled Hochevar to sit down, and Herrera, as of now, the 7th inning guy, Soria the 8th inning guy, and Wade Davis, of course, the closer. Here's Alex Gordon. Gordon's 0 for 2. Gordon missed about 2 months last year with a groin injury. The Royals went out and got Ben Zobrist. He played left field till Gordon came back. Then he played second base because Infante was struggling. He had an injury, an elbow injury as well, had surgery in the offseason. Zobrist, such a valuable guy for the Royals last year. Now, of course, a member of the Chicago Cubs. Although the Mets thought they might have had him. He was in serious discussions with the Mets, but he wound up signing a deal with the Cubs. Who also picked up John Lackey, Jason Hayward. You can see the Cubs and Angels tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN2 as part of the quadruple header we've got for you. A lot of people picking the Royals. A lot of people
even more
picking
people.
the Cubs. Yeah. They're not going to sneak up on anybody this year.
This AL Central, though, should be very interesting. A lot of parity in this division. The Tigers, barring health or assuming health, look like they're a much better team. That pitching staff for the Indians, the upstart Twins.
You know, the White Sox made a lot of changes in the offseason. Yeah. They brought in some people. Then they had the whole Adam LaRoche thing that you wondered, would that have an impact on them going forward? It seems like all of that's quieted down now. So,
well, the potential in that starting rotation as well.
Yep.
Add some Todd Frazier and Brett Laurie.
Yep.
2 big upgrades.
2-2 on the way. Liner to center and in there for a base hit. Gordon knocks in a run, scoring Kane to make it 3-0.
Well, simply not trying to do too much here. Alex Gordon understanding the situation, goes down. Look at the plate coverage. Jessica off the plate away, and Lagares, I looked up, looked like he got a really nice break on the ball. But as you can see, just can't quite get there. It turns into a short hop that he can't secure. And another run for the Royals.
Here's Perez.
And off the bat, you wonder, should he have dove? But now seeing the replay and the fact that it got a short hop, I thought maybe he had a glove on it before it hit the ground. But that's not a play you dive on, because if you miss, runners are circling. That's all he could do.
So hard to dive when it's straight in front of you, too.
Perez 0 for 2. Base hit into left center. Gordon heading for third. And they just keep moving the line.
Salvi just does a nice job getting into contact with this, and again, the story all night, placement. Being able to place this ball, and Alex Gordon just understanding, reading, knowing that this isn't a very hard hit ball. If this is hit right on the screws into center field, he doesn't take third, but he reads the ball well. Takes it without even a throw.
Not sure the line is going to reflect how well Matt Harvey threw tonight, but he is gone with 2 outs in the 6th. Bartolo Colon on his way in for the Mets. Opening night here in Kansas City, and 4 more games on the ESPN family of networks tomorrow. Opening day. Telecast presented by Scotts will begin with the Astros and the Yankees at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Felix Hernandez of the Mariners, Cole Hamels of the Rangers, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Our group here will be in San Diego. We'll see the Padres against Clayton Kershaw and the LA Dodgers, and then it's Jake Arrieta and the Cubs taking on the Angels, 10 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN2. Matt Harvey's night is done. 5 2/3, 3 runs in, 2 of them earned, 2 men on his responsibility. As soon to be 43-year-old Bartolo Colon comes into the game for the Mets. The starter during the regular season, a reliever in the playoffs last year. Omar Infante is the batter for Kansas City. Colon during the regular season went 14-13 with a 4.16 ERA. 24 walks in 194 2/3 innings. He pounds the strike zone, throws a ton of fastballs, even though that fastball is not overpowering anymore. In relief in the playoffs.
It really is remarkable,
yeah.
Dan. It just, you know, this is a guy that used to throw 100 miles an hour back in the day, a former Cy Young Award winner, and now throws about 85% fastballs still, typically in the mid-upper 80s with the fastball now. But
missed off the corner.
Just typically living on the corners, moves the ball in and out a little bit, adds tail to it when he wants, takes a little off.
Gordon, the runner at third, he drove in a run with a base hit. Salvador Perez followed that up with a base hit. And a strike taken, 3-1.
Well, Infante thinking that's the same pitch you just called ball 3, and Bartolo Colon thinking that's the same pitch you just called ball 3 the time before.
So they're both unhappy.
That's right.
One thinks it should be 2-2. One thinks it should be a walk. Up the middle, sharply hit, an RBI single for Infante. Gordon will score, and it's 4-0.
It's just a really good at bat here from Omar Infante of just being patient and forcing him to come on the plate. Bartolo misses down and away again, just trying to nail that corner. And Infante is not going to give in because he knows he has a hitter count. Finally, one of those fastballs drifts back into the heart of the plate around the thighs. And again, with an RBI out there, an insurance run out there, it's just stay through the middle of the field, tack on that insurance run.
This is like a continuation of October for the Royals. They're capitalizing with runners in scoring position. They're 3 for 6 tonight, putting the ball in play, putting pressure on the opposition. Good defense. Got a terrific performance from Volquez, and now it's set up for the bullpen.
But nothing flashy. I mean, besides Hosmer diving into first base, we haven't seen anything that would make necessarily a huge highlight reel. And that it's even Volquez. I mean, he's got nasty stuff, but he was kind of all over the map. And then from their defense, just playing solid behind their pitcher, and ground ball after ground ball.
Yep. Including a bunt single by Hosmer. This is Fuentes. Tuesday night, Noah Syndergaard will be on the mound for the Mets. Chris Young will get the ball for the Royals. That'll be ring ceremony night. I think we would all agree the talk of potential retaliation by the Royals against Syndergaard for the pitch on Escobar in the World Series seems highly unlikely. Of course, in an American League Park, Syndergaard won't be batting or anything like that. The Royals will play 2 games at Citi Field later in the season. Yordan Ventura, if you're wondering why he's not starting any one of the first 2 games for the Royals, he had the flu late in spring training, so they have backed him up a bit. He'll pitch Friday in the 3rd game of the season for Kansas City. This is just a 2-game series between these 2 teams. The Royals, as mentioned last year, were 12th in the American League in rotation ERA. Of course, Johnny Cueto, who was here late last season, is now a Giant. Ian Kennedy was signed to a 5-year, $70 million deal to eat up innings, just to keep him in the game, get it to the bullpen. And Chris Young will be a starter right out of the gate this year, as will Chris Medlin, who has had not 1 but 2 Tommy John surgeries. And you can look at the rotation and say, is it a great rotation, but it's barely good enough for them to win because it's very similar to the one they had last year and they won.
And all they need is innings. And I think a lot of people kind of shook their head at the Kennedy signing, but I mean, the fact that what you just mentioned, but he does get a lot of Ks. He plays into this park. They got a tremendous defense behind him, and I think a lot of pitchers play better or pitch better than they would anywhere else because of the way this team plays.
Runners will be on the move. And a swing and a pop-up. Colon wants it. Now Wright will call him off and make the catch near the mound to end the inning. Matt Harvey knocked out of the game. 2 more for Kansas City and a 4-0 lead at the end of 6. The Royals lead the Mets 4-0 as we go to the top of the 7th inning. Dan Shulman, Jessica Mendoza, Aaron Boone, and Buster Olney with you. And as everybody who's a baseball fan knows, Aaron has become quite popular for many reasons. One of them is imitating batting stances and swings of major league hitters. So this week, Aaron decided to do Hall of Famer George Brett, which involves you a righty having a hit from the left side.
Yes.
Walk us through this. How hard was this?
I actually like imitating guys that are lefties. Sometimes it's actually a little more natural for me. But I showed it to him on the field today. I did it for him, and he kind of gave me, it's not bad, not bad.
He humored you.
Yeah.
I like the big wad. I mean, you did you went all out.
Yeah.
Like
went
you
all
studied.
Out. Yep.
What's your prep? Like what do you do? Like how do you?
No, it's just if I can feel it, I can feel it.
So we're going to do this every week.
Yep.
And we're going to offer, next week we have the Yankees and the Tigers. We're going to offer 2 players from the next week's game each week. You can vote on Twitter at BBTN, either A-Rod or Victor Martinez. And if it's Victor, you'll be doing it from the
left side.
Left side.
Yes.
All right.
I'm voting A-Rod. Just going to go ahead and get that vote in now.
Get it in there.
Do you have a favorite of anybody you've ever done?
I don't know. Different times. I love doing Ichiro, Pete Rose, Joe Torre. There's a lot of Dave Winfield. A lot of guys I love doing, but
coaches, umpires, like you've.
Oh yeah, anyone's
pitchers.
Yeah.
Occasional pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned Bulldog.
The Bulldog,
earlier.
yeah, the Bulldog's good.
I did Oral last year, so he could make an appearance at a Dodger game this year. You know.
All right, we got that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sports writers as well.
Sports writers,
we got the
Buster's in the crosshairs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Careful what you wish for, Buster.
We've got a camera on you at all times, Buster.
Walker leads off the 7th for the Mets. They're down 4-0. They've had only 2 hits tonight. Kelvin Herrera is now in the game for Kansas City. Walker has struck out and grounded out. Herrera, part of that incredible bullpen that the Royals have had the last couple of years, sometimes as an 8th inning guy, sometimes as a 7th inning guy. Walker hits the ball pretty well to the opposite field, but no problem for Gordon. Herrera last year 4-3 with a 2.71 ERA in 72 appearances, gave up just 52 hits in 69 2/3 innings. And I think what a lot of people forget about Game 5 in the World Series, we've talked about the Hosmer mad dash, and then they won it in the 12th inning. But Herrera in that game pitched 3 shutout innings, pitched shutout ball in the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Well, you said in talking about him that he's been a 7th inning guy, he's been an 8th inning guy, and a lot of times in the postseason he's been a 7th and an 8th inning guy, but was dominant again last postseason. A big reason why they raised that banner tonight here at Kauffman.
Now Conforto lifts a high fly ball to left center. Kane is back and can't make the catch, right up against the wall. Conforto will stutter step around second and then put the brakes on and hold up with a 1-out double. Kane was sizing up his route and the wall and just could not make the play.
And this is why. This is what I was talking about. Watching Michael Conforto taking BP yesterday, it keeps carrying. And this looks like a pop fly. You can tell off the bat. I mean, gets a lot of barrel on it, but watch Kane go back, drifting, thinking, I got it. But now all of a sudden he's into the wall. I think he thought this ball was going to land before the warning trap, but it just kept on carrying. And this is just understanding. First game, it's your home ballpark, but just knowing where you're at and just a little bit of a misjudge there at the back end. I think Conforto had third base. He held up, as you mentioned, Dan, but he had it.
So he's been on base 3 times tonight, 2 walks and that double. And here's Asdrubal Cabrera, a base hit and a pop-up. That's looking to get something going here against the Kansas City bullpen, which is not an easy thing to do. 6 very good innings for Edinson Volquez tonight. Gives up just 2 hits. Walked 3, struck out 5. Now it figures to be Herrera, Soria, and Davis the rest of the way. Swing and a miss, 1-1. Not bad when your seventh inning guy can come out throwing 97, 98 miles an hour.
His swing and miss pitch, Dan, is that changeup that he can back in on this with 90 miles an hour.
But remember last postseason what we saw, we started to see him break out a breaking ball, and it was primarily fastball change, but it's just a part of his evolution.
Ground ball to the right side. For out number 2, Conforto to third on the play.
And adding another weapon to his repertoire late in last season, and it became an important pitch for him last postseason. I think that was the breaking ball there that actually got in on the hands of Cabrera.
And what's nice about the sliders, it's really the only pitch that'll break into the 80s. I mean, it was mentioned his changeup is at 90, which is just crazy to me that changeups are even in the 90s now. His fastball hit 98, but the fact that he can go 85, 84 with that slider, now he's got 3 speeds he can work with.
Two down in the inning for d'Arnaud, who has grounded out and struck out. And a lazy fly ball into center field for Kane. Inning over. 7th inning stretch. The Royals still lead 4-0. Goodyear, covering the bases with tires for superior performance all season long. Goodyear, more driven. The first day of action around the major leagues. Let's take a look at Play More Fantasy Baseball stats of the day. Brought to you by the all-new LG G5. A good start for Francisco Liriano. He gets the win as the Pirates beat the Cardinals 4-1. Marcus Stroman, a terrific performance. Troy Tulowitzki homers as the Blue Jays defeat the Rays 5-3. And Edinson Volquez in line for a win in this one, with the Royals leading the Mets 4-0 as we go to the bottom of the 7th.
How about Tulo being the first guy to go yard this season? And I mean, so much talk about that Blue Jays offense, but he was the guy that really wasn't necessarily their stronger hitter, wasn't the classic Tulo you saw. Comes out with a vengeance, at least game 1. Crushes.
Just got there end of July last year, and then suffered that unusual injury, the small fracture like in the shoulder blade, when he backpedaled for a pop-up. Kevin Pillar, who evidently has a very sharp chin, ran into him from behind, and Tulo missed a few weeks. Ground ball to third.
That's why I stay
and
clear
Escobar
of
retired.
Looney.
Bartolo Colon still on the mound for the Mets. One down here in the bottom of the 7th. Well, what about the American League East? You guys talked about the Central a little bit before. Now, what do you think of the Blue Jays? What do you think of the Red Sox? Yankees, Rays?
I have the Blue Jays as a wild card, but I like the Red Sox a lot too. And like anything, there's a lot of ifs, but I really like their upgrades you mentioned earlier with Carson Smith, Craig Kimbrell, David Price coming over. I think their offense, what they're doing right now, of benching Pablo Sandoval, putting Rusney Castillo at least in the beginning on the bench, just to kind of push some things and say, hey, you know what, we got some guys coming up like a Travis Shaw that could be really strong.
We saw Joakim Soria now warming in the pen for Kansas City. Who's your AL East champ?
I went with the Jays. I think interesting, one of their big decisions was moving Aaron Sanchez into that starting rotation to start the year.
Backhanded at short by Cabrera.
And a healthy Marcus Stroman now. Obviously, they lose David Price, who was so big for them the final 2 months of the season, but they gain a healthy Marcus Stroman. If Aaron Sanchez can become the guy I think they're hoping for to supplement that offense, and they've addressed some of the issues they had in the pen, so they have a chance to have a very good pen. I think they're the class right now of what should be a very tight AL East.
They've talked about an innings limit for Sanchez, although no number's been put on it. And possibly at some point having to move him to the bullpen later in the season. It seems kind of open right now. Obviously they're aware of it, they're concerned about it, but
it's going to get interesting though.
Yeah.
Especially if he's strong, as strong as he's looked early in spring training at least.
You know, then you look at a team like the Yankees, and if everything goes right, if they're veteran players, A-Rod, Teixeira, Beltran, if the older guys can stay healthy and be productive, obviously the bullpen, once Chapman gets back, 7, 8, 9 is ridiculous, but they appear to have all kinds of possibilities, but all kinds of.
Right, is Severino ready to become a top of the rotation? I think he is. So yeah, they're just dependent upon health of their veteran players.
Colon, 3 up and 3 down. He gets the Royals in the bottom of the 7th. is a way of life. The Woodyard Barbecue, a family-run business that's been around for over 50 years. And Joe's Barbecue, which has earned local, regional, national, and even international attention for the quality of its barbecue and the uniqueness of its original gas station location. Mr. Boone, you had some barbecue yesterday, did you not?
Upended some pork burn ends, real nice. A little snack in between lunch and dinner on the way out to the ballpark.
I have no
Best
idea
I've ever
what you
had.
just said. You
Get you some pork burnt ends next time you're in Kansas City.
That was a snack between lunch and dinner?
Yeah.
Yes, yesterday?
Yeah. Had to go light at dinner last night.
Yeah.
where we had, what was it, pork lard butter?
Yeah.
we sampled some things.
Yeah. They are known for their barbecue here. Joakim Soria is into the game for the Royals. Of course, came up with Kansas City, a Royal from 2007 rather, through 2011. And in those 5 years, he compiled 160 saves for Kansas City. Since then, Texas, Detroit, Pittsburgh, a split between the Tigers and Pirates last year. Now, with Holland gone, Davis moving into the closer role. Soria signs a 3-year deal, in effect to be the setup man to take over Davis's old role, but a guy who can obviously close, obviously has the experience closing if they ever need that.
And I like the order that Ned Yost is utilizing the back of his bullpen. I like the fact that he has Herrera backed up by Soria.
Juan Lagares shoots one up the middle for a base hit.
Because they're so different. I mean, Soria is not going to come in and blow it by you. He's going to sit 92. He's got a slider that's going to, he's got 4 or 5 different pitches that he's going to utilize. So now you got 1 inning for these batters against Herrera, completely different with Soria.
Yep. Rarely will you see a closer type, and that's what Soria's been much of his career, being a true 4-pitch mix.
And then you got this guy next.
Nasty.
Which he could probably throw behind anybody.
If you like ERAs under 1, he's pretty good.
It's decent.
Here's Granderson 0 for 3. 4-0 Royals, top 8. Season opener for both teams. Opening night baseball presented by Scott's. He falls behind 2-0. Volquez 6 shutout innings tonight, 2 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Herrera gave up a double in the 7th. That's it. Now Soria on in the 8th. Up high, ball 3. First and second, nobody out. Opening night baseball on ESPN is presented by Scott's Easy Seed. Grows grass anywhere, guaranteed. And in part by Carhartt. Outwork them all. A very fun night for the Royals and their fans. Pre-game, raising the World Series banner. Displaying the trophy. They handed out a silver slugger and 3 gold gloves from a year ago. And they've got the lead. You do have to feel a little bit for the Mets.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, what do you think's going? Because they come in, they're expecting it.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, it was one thing after another. And they had to stand out there and just
watch the whole thing.
Plus, that giant video board in center field. Entire pregame is just showing over and over and over the lowlights, really, for the Mets and the highlights for the Royals.
From the World Series. And the bad news for the Mets is Tuesday night it's going to happen all over again because they have the ring ceremony. And again, for people who may not be aware, it is a coincidence these two teams, the 2 teams that were in the World Series, are playing to start the next regular season. The schedule is set long before October. This is the first time that 2 teams that played in the World Series started the next season against one another, but it only could have happened in the last 4 years because remember the old way interleague play used to be. It was all kind of congested into 2 or 3 segments during the season. Now with 15 and 15 in each league, you've got to have an interleague series going on all the time, and it just so happens the Mets and the Royals wound up playing one another. 1-1 to right, swung on and missed. 1-2.
David Wright's got a few pretty good fastballs to hit in good hitters counts tonight. He's fouled a few off, and that one, a pitch down around the knees at Soria at about 94 miles an hour, blows past David Wright.
And he got him. 1 down. Now, Yoenis Cespedes, 1 for 3 tonight, and a guy who just, for about 6-7 weeks, changed the fortunes. One of the main reasons, the biggest reasons, really, why the Mets were able to get it going in the second half of the year, win 90 games, win the division, and make the playoffs. He had 17 home runs in his first 41 games as a Met last year. Cooled off big time in the last 16. And again, up and down in October.
How many of those bright yellow arms did you see throughout the country when he was on that run? And it seemed like everyone was jumping on the Yoenis Cespedes bandwagon. He was dynamic.
Bought a few cars in the offseason.
And that pitch right there at the top of the strike zone, we've seen him try it tonight a few times. That's where teams will try to attack Yoenis Cespedes. That pitch up in the strike zone with velocity is the one pitch that gives him a lot of trouble. The hold really in his swing. We'll see if that trend continues throughout the season. Teams attacking him up.
Right back to it.
An opportunity here for the Mets to make some noise, do some damage, trailing 4-0 in the 8th inning. Runners at first and second with a 1 down, and Lucas Duda on deck.
Just a day at the park back there for Salvador Perez, blocking in the dirt. He's dead in that ball all night long. I mean, he just made that one look extremely easy. Looked like maybe a changeup or a curveball after 2 fastballs up around the belt. Little show me pitch here to Cespedes. See if that just could do that again, or possibly try and climb the ladder again with that fastball, as he's changed his eye level now.
One, 2 inside, 2 balls, 2 strikes. A sellout crowd of 40,030 here at Kauffman Stadium. Wade Davis starting to limber up in anticipation of an appearance in the 9th inning. On the appeal, he didn't go, and the count is full.
I think now, Jess, 3-2 count here. He's shown him a couple of off-speed pitches. I think it's cut loose with your best fastball in the heart of the plate, but attack the top of the strike zone.
And now Perez out to the mound. Moustakas will join in as well.
Wonder if that had a little to do with lack of conviction on that pitch selection. You know, obviously Lagares not going anywhere there. Maybe Soria not sure. There's a little inside move there, and that alerted Salvador Perez to maybe let's go get on the same page with this pitch. Dangerous hitter obviously at the plate. A couple runners out there. You want to be convicted with this pitch.
Big pitch coming here. Fouled back by Cespedes. Already 18 pitches thrown in the inning by Soria. One in the first, one in the fourth, two more in the sixth for Ned Yost's Kansas City Royals. The Mets trying to get something across here in the eighth. And it is ball four high to load the bases.
Great at bat by Yoenis Cespedes, and he starts out, as you mentioned, Booney, he got 0-2 because of those two high fastballs, but then Soria comes back in the dirt, the changeup, fastball in, misses off the plate, and it goes back with a slider away in the dirt. Another fastball that Cespedes fouls off and wastes, and then he tries to come back. That's the pitch you were calling that would have been the K pitch possibly if it was in the strike zone, but Cespedes, great at bat, starting 0-2, gets the walk.
Now Dave Island, the pitching coach, out at the mound. An opportunity for us to remind you about MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Luke Hochevar is up in case Soria gets into more trouble here. Ned Yost would ask Hochevar to finish the eighth, then still have Davis for the ninth. Ball one.
Well, I think the difference with Soria that you didn't really see from Herrera last inning is the fact that Soria has to live on the edges. He is not going to get as much movement, and because of that, you're seeing his misses a little bit bigger. He cannot go over the plate because he's not going to get that late action, that late break that you saw earlier, especially with Volquez to start this game.
Bases loaded, one out. And a little jam shot to left field. This is going to drop. And it will score 2 runs for the Mets. Cespedes around to third. It's 4-2.
Well, ahead in the count, and Soria actually probably makes the pitch he wants. He wants to get in on the hands of Lucas Duda, and he does. But because the pitch is elevated and because it's fairly straight, there's a flat enough swing there to where he's just able to dump this pitch out into left field. And the Mets now with a real opportunity to maybe tie this game this inning with still the middle of their order hitting.
Neil Walker 0 for 3. Crowd getting a little restless here with Soria. Two hits, 2 walks, 2 runs given up by Soria thus far here in the 8th inning.
And this is the time of game you're within 2 runs. You think about Conforto earlier, that double that he gets that he should have taken third base, that would have ended up being a run. Little things like that start to play. Now Conforto's on deck, and I think that's why the crowd's getting antsy, because that's the guy you want up if you're a Mets fan with a chance to take a lead.
Ground ball foul, 1-2. Up to 24 pitches now for Soria. Hochevar looks like he's pretty much ready. Walker has popped 16 home runs a year ago with the Pirates. This is his strong side. A swing and a ground ball to second. There's one. Not in time at first. Fielder's choice and an RBI to make it 4-3.
Well, just simply too slow developing of a play for the Royals to have a chance to turn this. Walker running from the left side. The ball gets in on him, in on the hands. You see him out of the box running hard all the way. No chance for the Royals to turn that over. And another run here for the Mets, though, to get right back in this game.
So they're within 1. The tying run is at first with 2 down in Walker, and the batter is Conforto. 2 walks and a double tonight. Hit 9 homers in just 174 at-bats last year as a rookie.
And this is his first opening day game, but he told me pregame, he's like, I just played in the World Series. I can handle big moments.
On the appeal, no swing. Hit a couple of home runs in a Game 4 of the World Series last year.
First rookie to do that in 19 years.
You see Soria kind of step away there, just kind of not locating the ball like he's accustomed to here in his first game back with the Royals. And you saw Salvador Perez doing what he does, kind of pounding that glove. Hey, you're all right.
Let's go back to Halloween night last year, Game 4 of the World Series. Left-hander Danny Duffy gives up a home run. And Conforto hit one off Chris Young as well.
Couple of strength pitches there. Breaking ball down and away from Duffy, and that fastball that Young likes to throw up in the zone. He's able to cover both.
Another little flare and another base hit. Walker stops at second on the bloop single by Conforto.
Well, right now the Mets playing a little bit of Royals at their own game. I mean, he just gets enough of this ball, finds grass. I mean, this is as bloop as you're going to get it, finding the one spot. And look at him just fight off this count, this pitch that kind of breaks in on his hands. Gets in for the hit just over the reach in Moustakas.
That's the end of the night for Soria. Hochevar on his way in for Kansas City. As we celebrate opening day, show your team pride by wearing your favorite cap tomorrow and share on social using hashtag #CapsOn for a chance to win prizes. Tune into all the opening day action tomorrow on ESPN. So it's a one-run game all of a sudden. It's 4-3, 2 on for the Mets with 2 outs in the 8th inning. Couple of bloop hits, couple of walks. They've scored 3 runs, and here's Luke Hochevar.
Another power arm for the Kansas City Royals, and a guy that Ned Yost developed a lot of confidence in late in the season a year ago. Became a guy that he really leaned on heavily in these situations. Runners on base, fastball, cutter, and a curveball you'll see from Hochevar.
As Drubal Cabrera is the batter. He's 12 for 36 lifetime against Hochevar. Fouls off the first pitch, 0-1. Cabrera's 1 for 3 tonight.
And that was the cut fastball there to start Cabrera. Starts on the plate. Broke into the inside corner and in on the hands. Cabrera couldn't hold up. The chance to deliver a big, huge hit here in his first game with the Mets.
Yes, he did. It's 0-2.
Well, K-Zone had it as a strike, catching the inside corner anyway, but didn't get the call. They appealed, and it does look like Cabrera went on that pitch.
On their feet at Kauffman Stadium. Shaver last year, 3.73 ERA in 49 appearances. He was terrific in the playoffs. 9 appearances, 10 2/3 innings. Did not allow a run in the postseason. And a guy who, remember, missed the 2014 playoff run because of Tommy John surgery. Got him. Nasty pitch from Hoshaver. The Mets strand a couple. And the Royals still have the lead. Stick around for Sports Center at Night with John Anderson and Kevin Connors. They'll have opening day highlights from the women's Final Four, as well as the NBA and NHL. Sports Center at Night after our game right here on ESPN and streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning here in Kansas City. Left-hander Jerry Blevins is into the game for the Mets. Missed almost all of last season. Took a comebacker off his pitching arm in April, fractured his arm, re-injured it later in the season, and didn't pitch again. Made 7 early appearances, and that's it. Was with Oakland for a number of years, was with Washington 2 years ago, 7 appearances with the Mets last year. He'll face the left-hand hitting Eric Hosmer here to open up the bottom of the 8th. He has held lefties to a .206 batting average in his career, facing a really good lefty here and a guy who can do some damage against left-handed pitching. And he's 3 for 3 tonight, including a bunt single. Chases the curveball, and it's 0-2. So it'll be Wade Davis time in the top of the 9th inning with at least a 1-run lead. Royals trying to give Davis a little bit more of a cushion. A little squibber out in front of the plate. D'Arnaud down to first in time.
Well, despite that little squibber there, it's been a real good night for Eric Hosmer. A little seeing eye single the other way that got the scoring started for the Kansas City Royals. His first at bat, then he works that first base hole on the the first second base hole on the first base side, and then beats the shift with an outstanding bunt, head first dive into first. Oh yeah, he's a Gold Glover, by the way, too. The first good scoring opportunity for the Mets. He lays out, robs Lucas Duda a chance to get back in this game early. Eric Hosmer earning his keep again in opening night.
One down here in the bottom of the 8th. Davis loosening up for the Royals. Kendrys Morales, the switch hitter, turns around to bat from the right side against the left-hander Blevins. Live K-Zone all game brought to you by Hankook Tire. 1-1 on Morales, a sac fly, and a couple of double play grounders. Strike over the inside edge, 1-2.
Blevins, who showed off the curveball, a big pitch for him against lefties to retire Hosmer here after falling behind. A couple of well-located fastballs, one on the outside corner, that one on the inside corner. Morales coming back in now.
Missed too far in, 2-2. Looking ahead to the 9th inning for the Mets, scheduled the 8, 9, and 1 hitters d'Arnaud, Lagares, and Granderson. Could see perhaps Diaza batting for Lagares. 2-2. And a sky-high fly ball into shallow right center. 2 down.
Couple real nice batters here for Jerry Blevins, who figures potentially prominently in that bullpen for the Mets this year, on in a tough spot to try and keep that 1-run lead intact. He's shown a good fastball and a good breaking ball here to two very good hitters to kick off his 2016 season.
Here's Alex Gordon. 1 for 3 tonight, had an RBI single his last time up. 4 runs, 9 hits, no errors for the Royals. 3 runs, 6 hits, and a very important error committed by the Mets way back in the first inning. But Yoenis Cespedes dropped a fly ball right at him. I mean, it wasn't a routine, more of a line drive, I guess, but it was hit right at him, and an unearned run scored that inning. And right now, it's a 1-run ball game. Cespedes due up 5th in the top of the 9th.
And I felt like that kind of set the tone early, and I felt like that's why the Mets were slow getting to where they ended up getting with the 3 runs. But it was such a like first inning, and just the anticipation of facing the team in the World Series, and then Harvey's dealing, and a couple seeing eye ground balls and an error in left.
Ground ball to second, and a 1-2-3 inning for Blevins. It'll be Wade Davis, as good as it gets. Coming out of a bullpen in Major League Baseball, he'll come on with a 1-run lead to face d'Arnaud, potentially Lagares, and the leadoff hitter Granderson when we come back to the 9th. Davis has been about as good as anybody has ever been coming out of a bullpen. 17-3, a cumulative ERA under 1, and a ridiculously high number of strikeouts, ridiculously low number of hits allowed in his innings. And he got the final 3 outs of Game 5 of the World Series last year. He moved from 8th inning to 9th inning after the injury to Greg Holland. Didn't miss a beat. And he is on here with a 1-run lead. A save situation on opening night with the Royals leading the Mets 4-3. An ERA under 1. How do you have an ERA of 1 and then the next year you do better than that? That's what Wade Davis has done the last 2 years. Travis d'Arnaud will lead off the 9th for the Mets. Foul to back. 0-1. Aaron, what is it that makes Wade Davis so incredibly hard to hit?
Well, he's developed elite command, but you're going to see mid-high 90s fastball, an outstanding cut fastball that he's developed as a reliever, and then a wipeout breaking ball. It's a similar repertoire as Luke Hochevar, but it's just another notch up from a stuff standpoint.
Just missed.
Well, and he has frontline starter command. I mean,
Yep.
You mentioned it, but it's not something you usually see on the back end of someone that can come in and just consistently paint it.
Part of the James Shields trade between Kansas City and Tampa Bay after the 2012 season. In his first year with the Royals, he actually started most of the time. 24 starts, 7 appearances out of the pen, had an ERA over 5. They made him a full-time reliever in 2014, and the rest is history. Two and two.
That d'Arnaud is going to kind of be shaking himself a little bit. That's about as good a pitch as you're going to get to see off of Wade Davis. 96, yes, but in the heart of the plate, a pitch that d'Arnaud could do some damage with in a hitter's count, and he fouled it off. Now you got to have that curveball in the back of your mind.
Fastball foul to back.
And still respect 97.
On deck is Alejandro Diaza, who will bat for Juan Lagares. Again, the 2-2. Just missed outside again. That cut fastball right on the edge.
And you don't want this anywhere else. Against a hitter like d'Arnaud, you want to paint it, and you see the K-zone picks it up right as a strike. You talk about command, that's exactly what you talk about black, and he laced it exactly where he wanted to.
Did not go, and it's ball 4, and d'Arnaud is sprinting down to first base. Almost as if he's thinking, hey, I might have gotten away with something at some point during that at bat. And now we're going to have a runner for him.
He held up.
Yep.
And Eric Campbell is going to run for d'Arnaud.
Well, d'Arnaud definitely got a break there on that 2-2 pitch, but nonetheless a good at bat to lay off some pitches and ultimately lay off that 3-2 pitch to get that tying run on with nobody out. Potentially a bunt situation with Diaza, who handles the bat pretty well, but
in on the grass at third, Moustakas. Hosmer holding on Campbell. And the pitch. Ball 1. The Mets scratched their way to 3 runs in the 8th inning. There were 2 bloop hits to left field in the inning, 2 walks. A fielder's choice scored a run. Well, it doesn't matter how hard they hit them. They found some holes. They found some green. They're back within 1 with the leadoff man aboard here in the 9th. Diaza with the Orioles and Red Sox last year takes high, ball 2. Moustakas backs up a step or 2 now off the grass. Onto the dirt just shy of third base. Middle infielders at double play depth. 2-1.
That's good recognition by De Aza there. He kind of shakes his head like maybe he thought that pitch was away, but certainly in a 2-0 count, that's not a pitch he wants to go after as it's kind of running away from him. That's a ball you tend to roll over for a weak ground ball.
Ground ball to second. They'll force the lead runner, and that's it. Infante spinning and making a nice throw to Escobar.
And what I love about that play is there was no rush in Omar Infante. Even though Campbell's on, who runs pretty well, and it's kind of a slow developing play, he realizes right away he's probably got no chance at turning a double play. But he gets his feet under him without rushing. He knows his clock. He knows how much time he has. Get himself in good position to make a strong and accurate throw and at least get that lead runner. You see Escobar there understanding there's going to be no chance to turn this. Very good, calm veteran play there by Omar Infante.
Now Granderson, lots of power, 26 home runs a year ago. 3 for 11 in his career against Wade Davis. The tying run at first with 1 out here in the 9th inning. Same alignment defensively for the Royals. And the pitch, a check swing and a called strike, 0-1.
De Aza, who's stolen a lot of bases in his career, doesn't run as well as he used to. 7 steals last year in 12 attempts. And obviously you got Salvador Perez, who throws extremely well behind home plate. Wade Davis, who's not overly quick to home plate. But with these lefties and the chance to do damage to Granderson, I would be surprised to see De Aza take off in this situation.
David Wright, the on-deck hitter for the Mets. 0-1 the count on Granderson. Cespedes behind Wright if it gets that far. With the Royals clinging to a 1-run lead here on opening night. Pulled foul, 0-2.
Now a chance to expand the strike zone here. A lot of ways you can go. The thing with Granderson, he's tough with 2 strikes. He tends to lay off tough pitches, but I think you got to make him expand the strike zone, whether it be with that breaking ball, maybe the cutter off the plate.
To the count of Moustakas once it got to 2 strikes, backed up at third. Middle infielder still looking to turn that double play to try to end this game. The lead by De Aza. And the 0-2, a swing and a ground ball, base hit up the middle for Granderson. De Aza will make the turn and head to third. The throw is not in time. And the Mets have the tying run 90 feet away.
Guys, I feel like time and time again last postseason we saw these kind of at-bats from Curtis Granderson where he would fall behind an outstanding pitcher. Here an 0-2 count. They want to go off the plate away, but it doesn't get far enough to where he wants it. It maybe catches the edge of the plate or just off, and it's elevated. Granderson able to get a good piece of it, and De Aza, who runs pretty well, able to get to third base with less than 2 outs.
So the tying run at third, the go-ahead run at first with a 1 out here in the 9th inning, and the batter is David Wright with Yoenis Cespedes on deck. Davis sets. And the pitch, a fastball on right, is late on it. 0-1.
Nicely, I think he's going to get a heavy dose of hard. Not let him catch up with anything, because he hasn't been able to catch up with anything above 94 so far this game.
Right, 0 for 3 with a walk. Davis trying to save it for Edinson Volquez here on opening night. Fouled back, 0-2.
Another good pitch to hit there, Jess. 95 in the middle of the play. Looked like he had a good swing.
And that's David Wright's zone right there. I mean, he likes fastball away. This is where he'll get it on a tee, mid-season form, and he's hitting the gap right center.
Strike 3 called, 2 down.
Well, Jess, you said it. He was going to stay hard because Wright hasn't shown he can handle it tonight. He blows a fastball right down the middle by him there. Maybe a little cutter that he puts a pretty good swing on and then paints the inside corner that I think David maybe thought was in off the plate, but maybe a little cut action to bring it back over the inside corner. A huge pitch by a big-time closer. Now an out away for the Royals to close this one out.
So with the tying run at third and 2 down in the ninth, the best the Royals have against the most dangerous hitter the Mets have, Davis facing Cespedes. And a strike, 0-1.
And I think the same philosophy here with Cespedes. Attack him hard, try and elevate up in the zone, and then maybe expand with some of your secondary pitches.
He's had some success, as you can see, against Davis. Curveball, and it's 0-2. That buckled the knees of Cespedes.
There's that pitch up. But now if you're Wade Davis and Salvador Perez, though, it's just another strike. So it's still 0-2. You've got to continue to expand the zone and make Cespedes hit the pitch you want. You got to look a little too fine with Curtis Granderson. Left the pitch with 2 strikes that he could handle.
Down and away with a cutter. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The count on Cespedes.
And you got 2 pitches in your back pocket. You got the knee buckling curve that you know is in the back of Cespedes' mind. Because you know it might be there, do you see a front door cutter? Do you see that pitch that you saw strike out David Wright that's going to be right at the knee of Cespedes and come over the plate?
Perez slides to the outside. The 1-2 on the way. And a fastball that drifted back over the heart of the plate, fouled back by Cespedes. The Mets got 3 in the 8th. Tying runs 90 feet away, but there are 2 outs now in the 9th. Diaza at third, Granderson the go-ahead run at first. But the Mets are down to their final strike. Again, the 1-2. Curveball, and he got a piece of it, and Perez couldn't squeeze it. So it ain't over yet.
This is just a great job by Cespedes to try to get a piece of it. And you see he's beat, but he just enough to nick it. But Perez holds on to that. This game's over.
It's almost the same pitch that was strike 2. Cespedes just able to get a piece of that.
Great battle here between Wade Davis and Yoenis Cespedes. The pitch. Breaking ball in the dirt this time. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
And 2 really good at-bats from good hitters, and Granderson and Cespedes behind in the count, and yet another outstanding play by Salvador Perez with the tying run down there at third. All he does is deaden it and make it look extremely easy, as he has all night.
Davis straightens up at the side. The 2-2. Fastball swung on and missed. and the Royals win it. Davis wins the battle against Cespedes. The Mets make it interesting late, but leave the tying run 90 feet away as the defending World Series champions open up with a win here in their home ballpark against the team they beat in the World Series last year. Catch up with all the latest baseball news with the Baseball Tonight tomorrow at noon on ESPN. Then the Astros and Yankees at 1 Eastern, beginning a quadruple header tomorrow on the ESPN family of networks. Again, the final from Kauffman Stadium, the Royals 4, the Mets 3. For Aaron Boone, Jessica Mendoza, and Buster Olney, I'm Dan Schulman saying good night from Kansas City. Thanks for watching. SportsCenter is next.